It is 6:34 on February the 6th, 2025, and I will call this meeting to order. Roll call first. Terry Warner.
Here.
Matthew McGovern.
Here.
And Laura Sanchez Fowler. Here. Mike McLeod.
Here.
Sam Houston Clinton.
Here.
Okay, and if all would rise for the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Texas.
Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And please remain standing to the invocation. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, Lord God, we do thank you, Lord God, for this beautiful little city of Martindale. And we just are so grateful that we get to serve this community and honor you. Lord God, we do pray for rain, and we do pray for all of those firefighters who are having to fight those fires that are out there. Lord God, we just ask for your hand upon us tonight and give us discernment as we go forward with governing Martindale. And as always, I thank you for the gift of salvation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, a number of public comments. The first one will be Jared King.
Man, let's get it on back.
Well, I would stick out like a sore thumb around here. My name's Jared King. If you can't tell by this accent, it is not, I come from a big city. Remember, the city has probably already talked to the group that I'm messing with as far as truck stop. I know it's a big topic for everybody. So I'm the face. I'm the guy that deals with the cities, with the counties, with the state governor's office, and so on and so on. A little bit about myself. Born and raised in North Carolina. I'm half Texan, half North Carolinian, okay? We'll set straight on that one. I joined the United States Army, with this gentleman over here with this hat. 18 years old, 9/11 happened. I served 4 tours overseas, stationed Fort Hood, Texas, did 13 and a half years. Sam said too many beatings, time to retire yet. So I retired. Currently I work all over the state. I work a lot with refineries, Exxons. Also, I do a lot of development too as well. A little bit about myself. I keep going on and on and on. I apologize. My father's a Baptist preacher, so I do have that ability to talk to a tree because of him. I know there's some concerns. I understand there's issues. I hear them. I deal a lot with law enforcement. I'm very pro law enforcement. I guess that goes back with the military culture. A lot of times, and I deal with a lot of cities. I'm dealing with Point Comfort right now, which is right there across from most plastics. I deal with Hallettsville, you name it, pretty much everything down here in that area is kind of what I deal with. My biggest thing for me is when we go and I invest into a community, I'm here for the community. I'm not a business card guy. I'm a little bit different. You can't tell. Okay. I don't carry business cards. You want to call me? Call me. Area code 254, Fort Hood, Texas. I ain't changed it since the day I retired. What you see is what you get. That's the best way I can tell you on that. If there's an issue, if I ever have problems with my stores, people call me. I had one the other day. They said, "Hey, Mr. King, is there any way we can get bread at this store?" And Point Comfort. I said, "Hey, no problem. I get it. Bread. Nobody wants to go across the causeway to Fort Lavaca. No problem. Get it in there." A truck stop is one thing we would like to see about putting in. Another thing we like to see about putting in is a grocery store. I think grocery store always needed around here. I come from a city, or should say, no offense to you guys, a town that's about the size of what this is right here. Small town community. Growth is all around the state. Property taxes is going up. Things get more expensive. Cities and towns like this only have 1 or 2 ways of really raising funding. Either A, you've got to bring in outside dollars, or you've got to raise property tax. You've got salaries to pay, law enforcement to pay, infrastructure, and so on and so on and so on. I'm a true believer in growth, but I'm a believer in controlled growth. Controlled, small growth. If you change the city overnight, you got problems. Controlled, slow growth. When it comes to myself and dealing with the cities and with the community, I'm the kind of guy, if you have a problem, call me. I do all kinds of things. I've helped out Point Comfort with YMCA pool, fixing that. That thing's been down since the daggone seventies, getting that fixed because people like to go swim in the pool. I'm building a ballpark right now, right across from most of Plastics, just to tick them off. No offense to them, but I deal with them too. But I want to build a ball field over there because I'm an eighties baby. I was born 1982. Okay, came up with the peanuts and the popcorn and the sunflower seeds. All right, I want to see a ball field. I didn't want somebody to go over there and put something crazy up over there. And I'm friends with the community. I deal with the community. So that's what I do. If there's a problem, I help out the city as best as I can. The same thing comes here, if y'all will allow me to come here. If you have an issue, call me. City's hurting. Disasters happen. I'm there. I hop in my truck. Yeah, I got a Dodge outside. Somebody won't see it, but I got 1999 F-250, 7.3 liter with paint coming off on it. Because I bought it when I was in the Army, and I understand how it is being struggled as an enlisted person. So I understand those struggles, because I respect where I come from. So if anybody has any questions, when I leave out of here, I'm gonna go right across the street, because I got told it's pretty good food over there, and I'm starving, y'all, I am hungry. I've been up since 4:15 this morning. I hope they have chicken fried steak over there, if anybody can confirm that, make it feel a little bit better. I don't know, any good food over there?
I think we posted it tonight.
All right.
So, I just wanted to ask, did you purchase that property?
No, ma'am, we have not purchased the property yet.
Not yet. Okay.
I have not purchased the property yet, and I'll tell you why, okay? I prefer to deal with cities. They're a little bit easier for me to deal with. They're a little bit small. If I don't purchase the land where it's what I see, I'm gonna move not too far outside, right outside of your line, and I'm gonna put it in the county. Which then I gotta deal with the county. I prefer to put it here and give back to the city. Counties usually don't struggle as much as cities do. That's a fact. I think we all know that.
So if you want to contact us next week with the business plan, we're here Monday through Thursday. We're not open on Fridays. So if you want to contact us next week, we would appreciate that.
I would love to. I think y'all have another meeting in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'll be here for that. You know, if you want to put a business plan, I'll put it. If anybody's got any suggestions, great. Here's
I want you to finish your number.
area code 254-213-8829.
Awesome.
No problem.
I got one for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the sport terminal's gonna be a huge truck terminal, back towards San Marcos off 1984. You might check with those two. They have 18 liters all over.
All right, so when I say truck stop, I want everybody to understand this. I can control how big a truck stop. I don't want, this is not a truck stop, people stay there at night. Cause I don't want to hear, I'm combat veteran, I got bad hearing, I don't want to hear somebody's motor running all night long. And them little, I know it sounds bad, loud exhaust, I can't stand it. I don't care if it's on a Mustang, I'm a Mustang lover, I can't stand it. I understand people have concerns about that. That's where I kind of come into play and say, whoever the local law enforcement gentleman is, hey, can you please burn their butt, because I don't want to hear it either. I hate Jake breaks. I understand them for safety purposes, but they need to cut it out.
We got an ordinance against it.
Well, okay, amen to that, brother. We got one at Point Comfort now. All right, but that's what I'm here for. If there's a problem, call me. I don't have to put in exactly big ones, but at this truck stop, it's not like a Buc-ee's, it's not a Texan, okay? It's small, we keep it small, we keep it clean.
Okay, thank you for introducing yourself, and we'll look forward to hearing from you next week
All right,
about a business plan.
I didn't keep up with the whole sign thing, but I did see some on Facebook. I'm just wondering if you haven't purchased a property yet and it wasn't approved and the sign wasn't even approved, how was that gonna happen? You know what I'm saying? Like,
so we go off of what we have information from you guys as far as what your ordinance is. I know you have beautification ordinance, but also you have a notification ordinance. So I have a
Yeah,
legal team.
We're kind of off script. If you
You're
don't
off
want to
script.
go outside to talk, you can't.
One says I need to, and the other one says I'm not supposed to, so we're trying to do the right thing, and so we were told from what we've seen from our legal department, they were to put a sign to
And we'll
allow.
look forward to hearing from you and your business plan. Okay, the next public comment is Mary Beth Harper.
I have some, information from the library. We have a busy spring, mainly February plan, and all these events are free, which I'm sure you will like. Okay, currently the library is hosting tax aid sponsored by AARP. Volunteers provide your tax returns electronically for free. You have to call the library, to set an appointment. And they're meeting in 413 Main Street, bookstore down here, and hours of 9 to 11 and 1 to 5. Anyway, call the library, sign up. Okay, the starting, Saturday, February 15th, there's free children's art-based, education classes. These are ones from 10 to 12, and they're all going to be 413 Main Street. These will help art, music, theater, and yoga, and Terry Hendricks is going to be the music teacher. And this is a grant from Save the Children, and, also members, you got a copy of this. And they did not put the address, nor the date, nor the time on here. Okay, anyway, that's that, and it starts February 15th, either on Saturday. Okay, then, next is on the diabetes management classes, and this is also something you got. This starts February 19th, the hours are 9 to 11, and this will also be in 413 Main Street. This class is run for 6 weeks, and only 12 people can register in for the, can be in the class. So if you want to be in it, you must register. And Caldwell County has a huge number of people who have type 2 diabetes. That's why we're doing this. Caldwell out there to register for this. Anyway, this is provided by the area agency on aging. And High Day is scheduled for Saturday, April 5th in Batesport, hopefully. They'll let us use it. And that's all I got.
Nice to see you back. Okay, Virginia Parker.
Hello, I'm Virginia Parker with the San Marcos River Foundation. I just wanted to say a few things on behalf of the river. We want to show support for the Martindale River Advisory Board's recommendations that y'all will hear later tonight, particularly with regards to addressing the fill that's being brought into the gravel pit at Southeast River Road in 1979. In the next flood, all of that fill is going to end up in the river. That's not good for water quality, not to mention bank stabilization and that sort of thing. It's also against the ordinance because it's in the floodway. So you'll have every right to do something about it. Secondly, I want to say a word of support, avoiding any concrete or structures in the city's parkland. At least the FEMA buyout land. It's just not a good look for a town that regularly floods to put concrete in the floodplain. So just a thought on that. As far as the truck stop goes, real appreciative of Mr. King's comments. Questions I would like to know: if the truck stop were to come, number of parking spots, size of vehicles, any limitations on size of vehicles, and then any runoff mitigation for water quality, because, you know, most of Martindale is in the floodplain. And so in the next big storm events, all the chemicals from the cars, you know, head straight to the river. So kind of a bad intersection right there, but the runoff would be my number one concern. And then lastly, y'all got this letter that I took out of Jay's hands from Tree Folks. And this is a group that we talk with regularly. They are a free tree planting service, and they will plant in Caldwell County. I asked them if they would please plant just in Guadalupe County, like along the river. They said yes. So that's not in their listed locations, but they'll do it if you're near the river. They will come and plant for you as long as you have at least half acre or more. So this is an amazing group, and I could see trees all over the parks. That would be incredible. So I hope y'all will call this organization.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Next up is Stephen Tittle.
I appreciate y'all listening to me. I'm in y'all's ETJ on Riverbend Lane, and I was here for two reasons. And first is the Airbnb ordinance, and I am in support of that. I have specific items that I'll say, you know, work through later in the meeting. And next, just so happenstance, I was actually going to, I guess serendipitous. I was actually gonna ask the city of Martindale to get with the owner of the restaurant slash bank slash historical building to actually identify that as a historical building and have it preserved, because that is some unique characteristics. It's been serving this community for 100, well, maybe 80 years, some such thing, and it's worth saving. So I guess I would be opposed to any sort of demolition. Now, if they could do a truck stop and keep the building and address the parking issues and the runoff, well, okay, then that's y'all's to work through. But I think that building is definitely worth saving, definitely in keeping with the community. I mean, it's been here longer than any of us have been here. So there you go.
I apologize, what was your last?
Steve Tittle, Tittle.
Okay, and last is Mike McLeod.
I just talk from here.
Yeah.
Can't spank you from there.
I stand up. I just wanna, I was pretty shocked, I was pretty surprised of the Facebook post on the sign, the truck stop. And, I've never seen that many posts. So to me, it's a great sign. We're a community, people are concerned, but I'd like the people to consider going to the next step, which should be, if you're in ETJ, join our community, join our city limits. Instead of just putting posts on Facebook, come in, get elected to office, contribute your time, get on a committee, because I'll tell you something. The state of Texas ain't gonna take care of us. I mean, I've had no luck with TCEQ. Okay? I don't wanna dog, I'm going to the Capitol at the end of the month. I don't wanna dog them too much, but can bans, for example, never done. Now, one thing we've done, San Marcos passed a can ban, we passed a can ban in New Braunfels. And a lot of people like to bash us. We've been called racist, we've been called a lot of things, we've been attacked at the water board meeting, and we're volunteers, and all we're trying to do is do the right thing. It'd be so nice if everybody could get on the same page and come together as a community. And that Facebook post was great news for me because, man, folks, it's coming. The growth is coming, like this Mr. King said, it's coming. Like, we need to focus on getting more parkland. We need to get a zero discharge treatment plant because it's our time here. And if we screw it up, it's on us and it's coming. So just to say that, a few things, and I'd say we got a good police force. We got a good council. We got a good administration, and we've done some good things. We're not perfect, but that's all I gotta say. Just please, let's don't fight among ourselves. Let's come together. And a lot of people have issues with me. That's fine. I'm a big boy, but let's do the right thing and take care of that river. As I always said, you take care of that river, you'll take care of Martindale. We're a special place here. We're not Pflugerville. We're Martindale, Texas, 10 miles from the headwaters of San Marcos. And we have to protect it. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have one more, Sam Clinton.
Good evening, council members and members of the public. I'm going to give you a quick end of the year update of things that I've been thinking about and working on. And I'm going to be speaking. I do not like to have my back
You're fine, you're fine.
to you. I would like to see us work on the Visit Martindale website. We had a committee that was going to be formed and that seemed to have fallen by the wayside. I would like to see our supplemental use table finished. I would also like to see members of the Civic Council participate in the monthly Turk Langford Northwest River Road meetings. I would like to see Park Mobile become a checking account and not be a general fund. I would like to see the Crockett manhole and the broken sewer lines be checked at and fixed. I'm very concerned as usual about that speed limit sign in front of GoGo Storage that is almost now at a 60% degree angle and falling in the road. Loose dogs are on Main Street. I want to review the contract with our landscape company coming up and add some revisions to the AJ contract. I'm also concerned about the money spent at the Skull Bridge pruning. It was $2,800 that was spent on that pruning, and I hope it is not paid for out of the park mobile budget because that is not park money. What happened to the emergency siren at the water tower? Never heard anything more about that. What about mail delivery on our city streets? We talked about that. We've also talked about the Gonzalez Street ownership and the realignment. I want to also revisit Guardiola Park and Bates and watering the trees. We have piles of wood debris on our Fannin Street lots. We have non-working cars on 1979. We're going to be installing some new signs in the Phase 1 park. I'd like to see an interlocal agreement with the county on animal control. Is the driveway for the schoolhouse still included in the Northwest River Road grant? I haven't heard anything about that. And the scenic corridor, there's excessive signage at a bakery and a cafe there. It's looking more like a car lot and a yard sale there. Do we have health inspectors for our restaurants? What about the library contract? I'll be brief because I have a whole nother page and maybe I'll save that for next time. But I'm also curious about the sidewalks on Main Street. Who owns them? Who is responsible for those? When are we going to get a Chamber of Commerce and a museum? What about the monthly meetings of all the committees and ADA parking on Main Street? I want to see more transparency in the creation of our FEMA buyout properties. And I'm glad to see that the RV has been removed from Three Rivers Church. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to reports. The first item is a proclamation on teen dating violence. And I'll go ahead and read this. Whereas 1 in 3 adolescents is a victim of physical, sexual, emotional, or verbal abuse from a dating partner. And whereas the effects of dating violence impact youth in all communities and cuts across economic, racial, gender, and societal barriers. And whereas respectful, supportive, and nonviolent relationships are key to safety, health, and academic success. And whereas by providing teens and young adults with education about healthy relationships and relationship skills, and by changing attitudes that support violence, we recognize that dating violence can be prevented. Whereas friends, family, teachers, coaches, faith leaders, community members, and other important people in young people's lives have the power to influence youth in positive ways. And whereas last year, Hayes County Women's Center, HCWC, provided 61 dating violence prevention and healthy relationship presentations to 2,430 teens and young adults. Whereas last year, HCWC reached an audience of more than 790,000 through prevention and education toolkit downloads. And whereas we must work together to raise awareness and promote healthy dating relationships with activities and conversations about mutually respectful and nonviolent relationships in our homes, schools, and communities. Now therefore, I, Catherine Glaze, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor of Martindale, Texas, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2025 as Dating Violence Awareness and Prevention Month for teens and young adults. And we have in the audience Perla Castro here to accept the proclamation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Perla Castro. I am the bilingual resource advocate over at Hayes Public Women's Center. I'm also a Texas State graduate, so yes, please help protect the river and thank you for that so much. Not only because it's a city nearby, but because it's the earth that we live on is the right thing to do. So just to go further into it, kind of the work that I do, I'd say is kind of like a life coach, helping survivors navigate through life's challenges. And I just want to say thank you, Mayor and City Council members, for recognizing February as Dating and Violence Awareness Month for teens and young adults, and thank you all for your help so much as well. As you said earlier, 1 in 3 adolescents experience physical, sexual, violent, or even verbal abuse from a dating partner. These effects affect more than just communities. These affect the economic, racial, gender, and societal barriers that we come across each day. By providing adolescents with education about healthy relationships, challenging attitudes that support violence, we recognize that dating violence can be prevented. Last year, Hayes Caldwell Women's Center provided 61 dating violence prevention and health relationship classes to over 200,000 students, these being all adolescents, teenagers, and young adults. Our prevention education toolkit reached over 790,000 people across the US. However, preventing dating violence requires more than just Hayes Caldwell Women's Center. It requires the entire community's efforts. Our agency greatly benefits from the continued generosity of local supporters. So thank you for standing with us in our passion and mission to create safe homes and communities for everyone in the Hayes and Caldwell town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you can stay, but if you want to leave, we understand.
Okay.
And then if I could just get a picture with you, and
Oh,
I'll make her look at them.
If we could get all of the city council maybe
That would be great, yes.
over here.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the work you're
Oh my
doing.
gosh.
With the taller man.
Me too.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, yes. With passion.
Make us look bad. We have the taller ones in the back, and shorter ones in the front.
Short hands.
I'm in the back.
Yeah, right. I don't know about you. So much older.
You don't have on heels.
Not tonight.
I know, I am taller.
out. I have been called out.
I'm taller than you.
All right. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3.
Thank you for coming. Thank y'all so much for your support and help. We really appreciate it. Y'all have a lovely night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I spared. Yeah, that's my son. Good.
Okay, so I just wanted to say publicly something about the truck stop sign that appeared Saturday morning. Apparently, that company that put it there was commissioned to put numerous signs throughout the state, apparently. And Ross King, the owner of the property, brought one gentleman like 3-4 months ago to talk to us about what they might want to put on that property. But when the gentleman spoke, they immediately said they wanted the truck stop, and Javi and I told them we did not think that was a good idea. And we told them that just down the road, that the city council had voted down the truck stop, and would they consider something else? We never heard back from them. So we just thought that the sale of the property had fallen through. And so Saturday morning, I didn't hear until probably like about the time I got to the SMRF meeting that there was this sign. And so I looked on Facebook and it was like, uh-oh. And I called Chief Ward and I said, they don't have a sign permit and that looks pretty permanent. People put up, non-permanent signs, temporary signs like political signs and stuff, and you don't have to get a permit for those. But anything real permanent, like if you're a business and stuff, then you have to come before city council and get a permit. And so he talked to the owners and to the people, and they took the sign down. It was up for less than 12 hours, and boy, there were a lot of comments. So the city doesn't have a clue. When this gentleman appeared tonight, he had come to talk to Chief Ward about, I think, retrieving the sign or something. But he hasn't even contacted City Hall all week. So that's where we're at. We know nothing about what their intentions are, and from what he said, they haven't even purchased the property. So no truck stop. Yes.
One question. I was actually kind of serious. Is there a way to zone that historical, therefore saving that building? Now, whether or not you have some sort of fueler or business in there or whatever, but that building's worth saving.
Yeah.
And so, of course, I had to bite my tongue and be nice and
Thank you.
sure.
Yeah.
But that building is very unique. It was actually one of the first things when I was going to college, Southwest. When I was coming from Houston, I was like, oh my God, look at that. Look at that. So I'm sure everyone has all kinds of memories about that. So whatever you do, save that building.
You might want to talk to the historic commission about
Yeah.
that.
Well,
Well,
that may
the
be the avenue of
landowners-
keeping the truck stop out. Well, you know, the building stays.
Yeah, you might want to talk to the landlord. That's a
Yeah,
good.
Lost King
Yeah,
is the
talk to the
land.
landlord. Jay Lake, talk to Jay Lake.
But thanks.
They're on the land, so it would be, that's what I would.
Can I ask you a question about the sign? You mentioned the sign and that is in the scenic corridor. So certain signs, like when Red Barn went in there, we approved their one sign. And as I mentioned just now, many other signs have appeared, like car lot signs and yard sale signs. But I mean, a sign in the scenic corridor has to get a permit, or is there restrictions? I mean, because we reviewed the Red Barn sign and said, is this an acceptable sign? But because of the sign saying something's coming, that's not considered a permanent sign, right?
Well, it looked very permanent to me.
And it was sunk in
It was,
concrete.
yes, and
Okay.
so we had them removed.
Okay,
There's a metal, it's 4x10, it's huge.
yeah.
Yeah.
But even so, with the truck stop, I mean, as you mentioned, they've never come to us and said that they want to tear the building down. I mean, that is a 3-acre lot there, so there is a big lot, but the Bagleys own all the land on the side there too. But I mean, as you mentioned, we got environmental runoff, we've got scenic corridor issues, we've got impervious ground cover because of the concrete.
That's why they need to make a plan and bring it to us.
Yeah, they have to
So
bring us
they,
a
they
business
step,
plan.
they took a step forward without, it's
Yeah, I've
impossible.
never,
I never seen somebody put up.
I
a
have never,
sign
since
like
I've been
that.
here 18, I've never seen that done.
So I was gonna save this for my report, but since we're talking about it now, that those signs are like, they're everywhere. They throw those things like, you know, like to see what stick. You'll find yourself on some, you know, rural road out, you know, Highway 47, where it says truck stop coming soon, has all the same verbiage. Name brand, it'll say things like that, name brand, fast food, grocery store. And so they're throwing them out there just to see what sticks.
But what's great, Jay Daniels, is we're a city. We got rules. And we're not in the,
Well,
in our
you
city.
open, you open the door,
Yeah,
this is what happened.
yeah. And we're in the city limits, we got rules and we got ordinances, you know?
I know.
So that's the
we'll talk
good
about that
thing,
when
as
I
I
do my
preached
report,
earlier,
too.
about people coming into our city limits, because it's so critical for things like that, because it was dangerous, you know?
So I agree with you, Mike. We don't need to talk about it anymore.
I'm trying to talk into coming in, Mr. Daniels.
Let's move
All
on.
right, let's move on. I'll keep going.
Okay, so, the next item is upcoming discussion regarding grant opportunities. A council member of Beller had asked about some grants. We're gonna be working with her in the next couple of weeks to discuss those. And so we'll be, talking about that in the future. Okay, we're gonna move on to the city administrator and his report.
So, quickly to follow up on conversation, yes, Sam, you're correct. A certificate is required for any development activities in the city corridor. Construction, reconstruction, alterations, additions, restorations, rehabilitation, relocations, signage. So it would cover the whole gamut of whatever happens in there to get to your concern. All right, so update on GLO grants. There's 3 grants I'll update on. The first one is the Resilient Communities Program Master Planning Process. This one, I'll be frank with you, I've not been too pleased with the transparency and progress on this one.
I used that word tonight, transparency.
There we go. Like minds, I guess.
Thank you.
So where we've been to this point is Langford Community Services was contracted, and also the grant administrators, but they have a planning department with professional engineers, and they've undertaken the preliminary planning process and developed kind of the as-is state of the city. Unknown to me, they've developed some base assessments that were submitted to GLO and apparently accepted. I've asked for copies of whatever was submitted. Hopefully we'll get that soon. Going forward, the next stage is more of that, what we expected is the public interaction with city council on the planning process.
How
So,
long is left? I don't know, 3 years?
So right now, the project was going to last between 18 and 24 months. We, right now, in our milestone, we're basically at month 12. Where we're at with the milestone. So what we've accomplished to date is really those baseline studies and that
That we don't have copies of?
that we don't have copies of.
Cool.
And that was apparently submitted and accepted by GLO without our awareness, which is not something I was very pleased to find out. Where we're going here, what's next is the preliminary planning process. So they plan to come to us again. Here we go. Here's what I asked them to provide us a Gantt chart. They provide this and kind of give some waypoints going forward. Plan to meet with the city council, get some feedback from city council, and then start engaging on public meetings. One concern I have on this is that there's only one public meeting from here on out listed on here. I don't think that's going to be real sufficient. So that might be a topic that we talked
Yeah,
about.
we had talked to them about having 3. I know you brought that up at the beginning. We said the same thing. That was not gonna be enough.
So hopefully when we get into some of this drafts of these sections, it's a more iterative process where we're be involved in our own plan going forward.
What was the amount of this grant or originally?
It was not to exceed $300,000, and there was $0 for matching. So it was 100% funded grant opportunity. At the end of this, the city will have a comprehensive master plan that will address hazard mitigation in that planning document. What flows from that is all of our zoning codes. So the master plan is a requirement for the city to enforce zoning. That master plan will have a land use that will basically be a recommended planning, zoning ordinance, I should say, for the city to adopt. So they may look at redistricting certain areas to address flood hazards and the like. And then going forward, it's going to have a 20-year lookout to help the city guide its development agreements. When the city considers development agreements, one of the considerations is, does it conform to a master plan? The city's last master plan was 1997. That had a 20-year planning horizon. So that expired back in 2017. And probably, though a lot of the base study elements that were in that plan are still very much true today, because there hasn't been a lot of change, especially when you look at geotechnical assessments and, flood, flood hazard areas that might have expanded, but they're generally known. So the prior master plan has been what we've used when developing. This is going to really set the stage for how we approach developers when they approach the city. Say, I have a bright idea, I want to do this project, and we'll say, okay, does it comply with their master plan, or is there ways that we can get there? So it's a very important document for us. It's going to set up the future of the city.
But it's
Why-
something we
why-
haven't had input into.
But it's something that we need to force the issue of having input on. I think some of the base assessments, the as is, at that point, is really looking for validation from us, like, yeah, your base assessment seems about accurate or not. I think they're using authoritative sources, the different flood models. I forget the names of them, not just the firm maps. There's another model that they use, base 14 or something like that. So those base studies we shouldn't have issues with, but it'd be nice to have those validated before we share those up some.
Could you go over the milestones on, the months 3 to 12? And from looking at that 7 on that list, what have they accomplished or what have they done on that list? That's from 7/24 to 1/25.
So my understanding is the resilient strategies, what I understand it to be is the resilient communities program, not resilient communities program, the, what was that group? That planning group from Texas A&M.
Oh, the.
The charm workshops, and then participating in those discussions, taking notes and understanding what those resiliency strategies are. I think it's probably also, some academic exercise of what generally are resiliency strategies. I don't know if a lot has been like new research on that front. Community engagement, I guess that's the charm, because it really hasn't had a lot back and forth, at least not on any of the work products that we're working on. And then the rest of it is just creating the maps, the mapping. And they've been working with Freeland Church to get the GIS data with the CAD, Caldwell County CAD, and mapping out like where our sewer system is. There's still some things that Pete needs, or the work with Pete to update on, like how big is the pipe? Is it 5 inches? 6 inches?
Well, I mean, I think it's about time we wrote a grievance letter. I mean, this is not happening. It really isn't. And for us to just sit back patiently and wait when this is a $300,000 grant and we say it's a big master plan. We haven't had any meetings. They're really,
Well,
the charm workshop.
That was considered the second stakeholder meeting.
Yeah.
Because we had a stakeholder meeting.
But Charm organized that meeting.
It's actually-
They didn't. They wanted to attend it once we said we were having it.
Doesn't we split it into two, but yeah,
So-
you're right. It's Texas AgriLife, it's Charm.
Right. So, and they did the work and they wrote the report. So we're paying them a lot of money.
The work that was done, yeah, no, I feel you. I feel you. I'm not disagreeing.
That's all.
I'd like to see
That's all.
I'd like to see a report that was submitted to GLO before it was submitted as well. I'm with you 100%.
We
If
need
you
to
didn't
write
get
a
a copy,
grievance letter.
that's really, or the mayor, one of the two, you should have got it. If not both,
So
which is disturbing because they know what they're doing.
it's not surprising to this stage that it's been a lot of like backroom analyzing the, facts on the ground, and that takes some time. What's disturbing is that things are being submitted and accepted without our validation. And then hopefully as we get to this next stage, what's happened in prior stages of having a conversation counts as a stakeholder meeting. I want to have an interactive dialogue with members of the community as part of the process, because if it's just 2 engineers up in, Cedar Park, where they're at. Yeah. That's not what we were signed up for. So hopefully they're going to be here. People in the community can interact with them and provide input. City council as a stakeholder can provide input, and this becomes a more collaborative process going forward. Now that they have these base level mapping products done.
So how long are you gonna wait then to hope to have a community meeting? Another month or?
Well, apparently this GLO package being approved ends that phase and begins the next. And so I expect there to be meetings soon after. Now, the next project I was going to talk about is a kickoff meeting on the 10th, and allow us to send people, representatives, who are going to be there. And we're going to be talking about a lot of things that day. And hopefully we'll get some more concrete plans, other than for the next 3 months, there's going to be a review of preliminary draft plan sections. I'd like to see a schedule of when that's going to happen. Which sections are coming when. Because what I don't want to happen is if the master plan is 12 sections, come May 1st, here's all 12 sections, let's talk about it. No, that's not going to be so.
I know that Langford in general has a reputation for having done this project for a lot longer than the $300,000 price tag it has right now. And I know there have been many other cities, not us, who have complained that, what they were left with was a project that sat on a wonderful glossy recolor printout plan that was not usable for the city in a practical way. Did they do our 1998 plan?
That was done by another group, I think out of Lockhart.
Oh.
I can look this, I remember it was another grant funded plan.
Yeah, and it was the predecessor to this grant. And it was about, I forget what, $50,000 or $80,000 to do that funding. But it came out with the same kind of product. And then that grant changed because they had pretty much like run the gamut of all the small towns in Texas. And some of them they started to go back to and do follow-up studies with. And this group Langford was one of the groups that was heavily involved in that earlier phase of funding. And then when this grant came out, they have done a lot of the cities again, but under this new planning. I'm just wondering the difference between what you got for the 50,000 and what you get for the 300,000 in terms of planning, because it seems very similar in terms of what their procedure follows and the fact that there's not a lot of involvement. It's kind of the kind of thing where you get really good at it and you can kind of write it in your sleep, you know? And so I just am wondering if anyone's waiting.
Can't speak to that.
No,
I can't
you
speak to
shouldn't, you
is-
shouldn't. If they were not the people that did our last plan, then you shouldn't speak to it, because we don't know if it would have been the same plan or not.
So so in state statute recommends certain sections be in every master plan.
Sure, of
And
course,
so
of course.
if you go from one city to the next, a good 75 or 80% of the sections are the same sections.
They're the same sections, they should be entirely differently written depending on the city, its size, its characteristics, its identity, what the people want the city to become.
True, but there's also some best practices regarding flood hazard mitigations of not building houses where there probably shouldn't be houses or other things. I know,
Absolutely.
impervious cover being something especially for a larger city, metropolitan area. So, you'll still see some of like, probably a lot of copy and paste happening if you would pull our plan what they did for, whatever city A and then what they did for Martindale, probably parts are gonna look very similar. The issue of not being usable, that's gonna be on us to make sure it is usable, and then also that we do use it. Sometimes people get a master plan and like, I don't know what to do with this. It can be a very powerful document if you know how to use it, because that gives you the weight of your ability to approve and deny. And so if it gets challenged, you go, you're doing some sort of administrative taking and you're not allowing me to develop my land and you're standing in my way, lawsuit. Our master plan says that does not conform, and that's kind of what you need in order to meet muster. And so, using the plan to inform your planning processes, your zoning approvals, how the planning and zoning boards consider requests for variances and special use permits and the like. If it's not conforming to your master plan, then yeah, it's just a big binder sitting on the shelf, not doing you a lot of good. But if you use it, implement it, it can do a lot of good.
Plus, it's helpful in getting the words.
True, that's it. That's it. So that's the Resilient Communities Master Plan. Any other questions on that one? Okay.
Thank you.
Atlas 14.
The Atlas 14, I knew it was something 14. Wastewater Crockett Lift Station improvements. We've contracted for that grant. We have a kickoff meeting with GLOs coming here on February 10th. That I believe is at 1 o'clock. And we're going to go through the full gamut of that contract. There's a set agenda that they follow. They cover every item of that contract. City Council, you are very much welcome to attend. We'll publish a notice for those quorum if we haven't already, and love to have you there. So if you want to know what's going on.
It's a workshop.
It's a kickoff meeting between GLO, the grant administrator, and the city, so that we're all on the same page and what the requirements are under the grant, what the next steps are going to be, who's responsible for what, and go through every element of how that grant's going to proceed. So it's a great opportunity if you really want to dig into the weeds on how that wastewater treatment plant grant's gonna operate, go forward.
And I think that's like one,
Yeah, that's up one. The other,
that's Monday.
the other one is the Northwestern Road Project. We were able to, reach out to GLO's, intergovernmental relations manager, who put us in touch with the higher ups in GLO, including the director of all GLO contracts, basically grants. And we had a high level discussion with them about the Northwestern Road Project and the issues we're facing and the squeeze that the city was feeling and the water company was feeling, and try to get some perspective on what, options might be available to us.
I'm sorry, when was that?
Last Tuesday,
Like
It was-
with a week or so.
the 28th, yeah, Tuesday, the 28th. So yeah, we met with Rebecca Edwards, Carrie Spence Linnes, and Esmeralda Sanchez, GLO grant. We talked about where we're at in that grant planning process, how we're right up toward bid and have land acquisition issues, and what to do about this issue of funding for moving the water lines. And the fact that that's not fitting within the budget of the current grant, and not fitting in the budget of the city or the Water Supply Corporation. We've also talked about the modification grant that we're going to use between Quail Run and Riverbend Community, specifically that bridge sort of thing that's near Indian Court, and have that remediated and expanded to more than just 1 lane, 1.5 lanes. After some conversation, after they got an understanding what was going on, they said, we can work with you on getting these two grants to line up so you can move money. They technically can't move the money, but they can move elements of the projects from one to the other, and then work with us on either extensions or expediting the paperwork on the other, so that we can line up the projects at the funding under each grant opportunity at the same time. So it appears that there's going to be an option for us to use other grant funds to cover costs in the Northwestern Road Project that were exceeding that initial budget because of.
But this
You know.
will shorten the length of paving that we'll be doing.
Yeah, the downside is we were hoping to do Quail Run through to Riverbend area.
No, we're gonna do the S curve to Quail. We are never doing.
Well, yeah, so I guess
We're skipping that because the county's doing. The
But
county,
we're doing the bridge, yes.
Yeah.
I misspoke.
yeah,
The bridge project is still probably okay. It's probably still enough, but what we are missing is the street overlayment between the S curves and Quail Run. That's, you're correct.
yeah. That was
So,
100 and needed.
Basically, we're taking $500,000 out of a $2 million grant, putting it over here to cover the gap that's caused by this water line issue. Ultimately, not as much road is going to be fixed.
You're talking about the overlay, right? The overlay.
Yeah. So are you talking about, just for clear, are you talking about not as much road is gonna be fixed as we thought when we met with the water company, or you mean like, aside from that, it's been removed?
So let's start when we had the meetings with the water company,
Yeah.
we came to them and said, we do not have the ability
Right.
to fund this grant.
Mhm,
We need to work together to find a way to fund this grant.
mhm.
Basically, what is a way for us to fund the grant without the support of the Water Supply Corporation is for us to take money from another project, basically not pave the roads, not fix the roads, and instead fix the Water Supply Corporation's water line location.
Are you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to know the total, like what was the total length? And then what is it now?
So it was gonna be like, overlay section, basically from the shoe tree, S curve, somewhere in that area, depending on how it all would get bitted out, through into Quail Run, it would stop there. And then further on down the line, where that bridge by Indian Court that would get remediated. The entire pavement section from Shoe Tree to Quail Run is off,
Okay,
and that's not happening.
okay.
Not the shoe tree, we're still going around the S-curve.
No,
Not necessarily.
only if the bids come back low enough.
Yeah, so
No,
we're
we have
doing a
to go
little
around.
dance.
Basically,
We're
we're,
doing a little dance right now, because what we're doing is we're gonna go out for bid, and we're gonna see what the bids come in at, and what we can afford. And if the bids come in lower than what we're projecting that they're gonna come in, because right now everything is projection,
Yeah,
then we can do more than
we have to get around it. I mean, that was one of the issues with
that
the whole project was
to go
to
around.
be able to get around there and not have a one lane and and not have that issue is to,
I know.
we have to
but
get around the
We
two
dropped
S-curves.
that even at the last time,
I'm,
even before we went to the water department.
so that's why I'm saying,
I'm just telling you that I'm very much, we need to get around that S-curve.
the
We need
only
to
way,
get rid of that little ponding thing going on there.
the only way to get around the S curve
I know.
is
Go
if
ahead.
the Water Supply Corporation supplies some funding to cover the water line relocation.
If you, and we.
Probably.
And we.
I'm not saying that's a definite, but that's what it's looking like. Now, on the 10th, after this kickoff meeting we have for the Crockett Lift Station water treatment plant upgrades, we're going to deep dive on this issue and game plan how those two grants can interact, how different parts of it can be separated and bid separately and funded by different grants. Because we can't take one grant, can't take money from one grant,
Yeah.
move it that way. But we can take portions of scope and
They're
move
willing to work with us.
move it.
I-
So
I
that's,
guess-
that's one of the things that council asked me to do is
Yeah.
what can we? There's kind of three questions. One is, can we use the other grant funds? Yes, it looks like we can. The other one is what happens if we default on the grant? And they said, we're not going to tell you what happens because you're going to have to,
It's not.
you're going to have to proceed as if you're not going to default all the way until that happens in order for us to provide any relief. And we're not really going to entertain the conversation right now. And then the third one is there any extra money? Can you just spot us $200,000 out of something that might help us out? And they said, no, not on any of their options. They're totally awarded out.
I got two
No, you
questions.
don't have the right to do
Hey,
that.
I got a
You're
question
not
for
the
you.
chair. Don't be calling.
I got a question. So first of all, has the water company reached out since our last contentious meeting?
No, sir.
No, that does not surprise me. Second question, they had the road bond that they passed. There's a possibility that possibly talk to Ed about doing an overlay with that road bond fund.
Maybe there's enough budget headroom where they can squeeze extra area into it, but I'm not sure how that works with
I
their
use your
bonds.
formula, based on the linear distance from the Quail to the S-curve. And they're basically using almost the same dollar per linear foot that you use to go from Quail to 1984. It's 2.2 million. The only thing that we're doing for them is literally the bridge, which is, the width of the road. So we're not saving them a whole lot of linear footage. So I think we'd be very optimistic to think that we're gonna get money from a different part of that bond to get another $700,000, because that's basically what we originally budgeted for that stretch. And we talked about, we might be over by 50,000 at the time. I think the 700,000 is probably low.
Probably now.
Now it's probably eight and a quarter. Because everything appears it's gone up about 15%. Based on the numbers that you're giving me on the construction costs that we're in and what you said you've gone over, that's almost 15%. 12 to 15%.
Yeah.
So we have a gap right now in the project. We'll have a, section of road that in 2 or 3 years now will not be paved on North Dakota Road.
Well,
It's gonna be exactly as,
But fixing the bridge is going to help with that.
we need to really reach out to the county. I guess we can have future discussion. Because that overlay, overlay is fairly cost effective, as we all know. This is a good road to start.
There's not a lot of, it works when you're overlaying on top of something, but if you notice at the curve, when you're facing towards the river and you're turning around going on that right, where there used to be, I think there's a sewer line in there, there's maybe a culvert going on the road maybe at one point.
There is one that's just been closed.
There's, that's dirt, so you can't really do an overlay on dirt.
Yeah, but there's ways, I mean, you know, what, I would gladly reach out to the county, since I was involved in overlay, to see if they could just come look at it and give us a rough estimate. There can have to be some patching there, but the bottom line is, those roads are good, they're solid foundation, versus Skulls Road. No, Skulls Road's terrible, because they don't have the good base underneath it, but that's something we can discuss later.
Yeah, so we'll be talking about both those issues, the wastewater treatment plant road, project, Northwest River Road project on the tenth. I encourage, if you have an interest in it, in those projects, please plan to attend. It's going to start at 1. The Northwest River Road project is going to happen after the kickoff. My guess is probably around 2:30, following transition into that conversation.
Okay, would you like to have a comment?
I did, it is, my recollection that the original GLO mitigation plan included, funds for moving the underground water utility pipes. And in fact, and that amount decreased substantially because the scope of the project decreased. It was the cost of the culverts was my understanding for the over budget of the project and why it had to be reduced from scopes of that.
No, it's not just the cost, it's the
secondly-
whole thing, it's the whole project, everything is increased in cost.
You're almost to the point of like, do you have 2 culverts that can handle a 10-year event? Or you have 1 culvert that can handle a 2-year event? And
It was a lot of money.
it doesn't really save you a lot of money. It might make the water line come back in play. Those are things we can talk about with the engineer. When we've had that conversation with council in the past and with the community in town hall situations about the way to save cost is to go to this and have a reduced conveyance of water. That option was rejected at that time.
Now, didn't we reduce the culvert size at one time?
No,
We did.
We talked
in
about it.
one design we
Yeah,
did,
we did.
and the city council voted to have 2 culverts.
maybe, yeah, okay, maybe I'm
They
thinking of the
voted for
same.
a design that had 2 culverts.
Sorry.
But to answer your question about, so in the budget, they did budget for the water lines, and so in the beginning, in 2020, we thought that there would be money in the grant for water lines. And so I understand the frustration of the water corporation, as well as our own frustration in that we're doing half of what we thought we were doing in the beginning, because the cost had went up so drastically.
If I may,
Yeah.
I'm a little confused. Riverbend just put in a pretty substantial new bridge. The water department covered the cost of the new pipeline and covered the cost of going across Nellie Lane all the way to Spring River. So how is it they can do half a mile of pipe and not help you all out by 200 feet to get across that bridge?
That was already in the
It's a
budget.
great question.
It was already in the
It
budget.
was already their bucket.
Yes.
It was already book kept and
This expense was sprung on us. We discussed it our own, and then we were all a little shocked after the joint meeting. We discussed it. We decided that, and Steve was supposed to actually come to the next meeting, but his manager's meeting at Sunlab interfered with it. He was gonna come over and tell you that we need to work closer.
That's a good start.
And
I like to hear that.
especially for projects that
Yes.
you're gonna have underground digging,
Yes,
and we're gonna have
let's all
pipes.
be professional.
We have, preemptive easements that predate the city of Martindale, so those are there. So call before you dig. Give us a call. We are looking into, loans. Looking for small town loans. Dan's working on that. interest rates. Although it was our impression that your time, it would not fit in well with your time, even if we were able to find appropriate for loan.
Well, it's good news, we're both looking.
And we weren't sure how your easements issue was going.
It's going great.
I like what you just said, it's perfect, we need to work together as a team. That would be great if, I don't know if I want to have another meeting like we had, but maybe I could come in and talk, Fonda, and talk to you guys, and we need to be involved, but
Sounds good.
that's what we need to do, is problem solve to correct the problem.
Okay,
That's it.
any more questions on that?
Yeah, then the other items were the building permit software implementation and the online bill pay, implementation. Javi's gonna take the latest on those. We talked about it, but I can do it if you.
No, I can do it.
All right.
Go for it, young man.
So, hi everyone, my name's Javier. Kevin met me, I'm the assistant city administrator. Worked on the building permit software stuff and it's now coming into fruition. There's like two quick updates. We're gonna meet with the company called Cloud Permit. They're based in Shirt, or they're not based in Shirt, but the closest city that's like related to us is Shirt. We're gonna meet with them on Monday to really discuss. We're gonna meet with them and Bureau Veritas, who is our building inspector people. Talked to Bureau Veritas, they seem very excited and very pleased that we were gonna move to an online permitting system. And we reached out to them to see how they would want the system to look like, or the application to look like, because on our end, it's basically gonna be, they get an email saying that a new person has submitted a new building permit or an application for a permit. And they receive it, they look at it, they see everything that's submitted, they approve, disapprove, they're gonna say why it's approved, then you get an email on your end, the citizen's end, saying, this is what is approved, this is everything that you need to keep, and this is what, whenever a building inspector goes to look at whatever is being inspected, they're gonna scan a QR code, scan that QR code, and it shows them what is permitted. So no more of like, well, I was gonna do this, no, this is what is permitted, and this is what you need to do. So we're gonna meet with Bureau Veritas and Cloud Permit on Monday to discuss how that application is gonna look like, what both sides are gonna need from each other, and that's pretty much it from the building permit stuff. Is there any question or concern about that?
Yeah, I think that's a very exciting thing because I've seen it to where permits are usually for 6 months or a year and then they expire and then we don't keep up with this. I mean, there's demolition going on the Lanzola properties, on those farm structures, on the house. The buildings are still sitting there, not finished. And so things like that I see constantly.
So yeah, with that concern, again, whenever the public does a new application for this building permit stuff, the public themselves need to submit everything, and everything needs to be submitted at once. It's no longer, I submitted this, I'm gonna wait till this comes in so I can submit that. Everything needs to be submitted online. You create an account, your account is linked to you and your property. And that's how everything's gonna be logged now. It's no more like a paper, like sort of like a paper mess.
I had one other question. We had the impervious ground cover rules for commercial, for R1, 20%, 30%. And then I think we worked with the recent construction here. How big is the lot? How big is the building? Where is that paper that is associated with the permit, that the person that is applying for the permit is gonna say, okay, my lot is 50,000 square feet. It's R1, it's 20% of that, so I can build this. Do we have that ready?
So again, on Monday, that's when we're gonna talk about, we're gonna try to implement impervious cover. Is impervious cover like little, like not application, impervious cover, like field where you have to fill in, right? Fill in how much your acreage is, how much you already have, more or less. And then there's another, you, the citizen or the public themselves has to look at the FEMA land and see if you're in a FEMA hazard, or if you're in a FEMA mitigation way, so that you yourself or the person doing the application recognize like, hey, I am gonna try to build inside a FEMA way, FEMA hazard, whatever, or flood hazard, my bad, not FEMA, flood, whatever. So then that's also on not the citizens end, but it's acknowledging that I am gonna build in this. On Monday is when we're gonna talk about what needs to get implemented in there, what needs to get filled out, what needs to get, I guess, like, what's the best way for both ends, the city and the public, to be like, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is what is permitted.
You can actually require pervious coverage. There's a worksheet that the mayor and I worked on with River Committee. And you can force them to actually upload that form that they filled out. But everything starts with, what he's talking about, it starts with your PID. So you'll have the basis of the square footage of your property. It's gonna force the end user, the homeowner, to, because it's gonna pull it from the CAD for them. So they're gonna know, well, you have 45,000 square feet of property. So you can do 20% of that 45,000 if you're in R1. They'll already know that. So it's all being driven from the CAD. So that's good.
CADs are not always accurate, though. You need to go with the deed, because we have CADs on Gonzalez Street and Austin Street. We don't know who owns Gonzalez. We don't know who owns.
Well, that's not, those people are, we address those when those people.
Real quick question, is this this typically what cities do?
Yeah.
Most cities,
It's,
pretty standard norm.
I think for the way how this area is growing and what other cities are doing, this is probably the easiest for a city to do.
Go all electronic.
With the size of the staff, with the amount of time that we have, it's gonna make everything way organized and a little more cohesive on both ends. So it's no more of like, hey, I did submit this, I didn't receive it.
Jared did that when he went to renovate his house, so he can tell us how it works.
Yeah, I've used, the community I live in, an online permitting process. What's really nice about it is you have plan review and a fee, and you don't pay anything until you and the city agree on what the scope of work is gonna be and how much it's gonna cost. And so, it can be very nice in terms of providing certainty in the transaction. What's being permitted, what's not, what the fee is gonna be. And it also, for their standpoint, makes it very easy to, and efficiently, to process those requests. And so what I hope to do, we'll start with the building permits, but any kind of application that's gone to the city for a land use issue, building, certificate of appropriateness, et cetera, is if you have an inquiry, may I build this in here? You do it through the city's app, so that way we can get a lot of these preliminary answers accomplished. And we're going to process engineer this thing from the ground up. So we might have some lessons learned from prior building permit processes, things we don't want to replicate again. I don't know if there are things we do want to replicate, but we're going to work with Bureau Veritas and Cloud Permit and find the most efficient practice and get the city staff out of the calling balls and strikes on what's approved, what's not. And it's going to go straight to the professionals with Bureau Veritas for their review, because they're building inspectors and they're code inspectors and they know what's required. And they will have our ordinances to go off of, like, so, there's a zoning issue or not. They'll be able to do that. And it's one of the reasons why we negotiated the contract a year ago now to include a lot of those additional planning support items.
I think we were just gonna remake the building permit process.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, we will still accept in-person stuff, because I know that's something that is a concern. But in the end, it's really just for to remake the building permit process to make it a little easier for both sides to be, this is what I agreed, this is what y'all agreed to, this is what you need to build.
Then on the online bill pay, do we have any update on the rollout?
I wasn't able to talk to Dwayne, he was here Tuesday.
Okay. So where that last stood was trying to get the Encode system to work with our the court to work with our new online payment. And there's a little bit of a manual gap process. And I want to get with Dwayne to understand the particulars of what the holdup is, but yes, he was out this earlier this week. So we'll try to have the report next time on our next council meeting. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, Deanna, did you want to update us on the elections?
Yeah, just real quick, when you're here on the website, let me go ahead and share the screen on Zoom so they know as well. Okay. Just a quick, since the deadline is coming up for the place on the ballot application, this is a website, when you open it, there's the main page, hover over government, head over to elections. And right here is the notice of the deadline. You go ahead and click it. And the end date is February 14th, so that's when the filing dates are over. We will ensure that someone is here from 9 to 5 that Friday to receive your packet. Anything that y'all have concerns about, I would definitely not wait till that Friday, just because I'm not sure if I will be your answer to your questions. And therefore, if y'all like, I can be your resource, but I would need time to be your resource. And the packet is there as well. All the packet is there, all 536 pages is on there.
Where's the short form?
However, oh, just a quick, right here on this second page, an important deadline you want to look at is February 20th is the drawing for the place. It's on the first one, right? Oh, sorry. No, it's not.
Yeah, it was on that one.
Thursday, February 20th. The drawing will be held at 11 a.m. That is when we officially get all of our candidates for the ballots. And if there's not unopposed candidates, we will do the drawing on this day. Just a quick highlight. On this part, it is 536 pages. However, the condensed candidate packet is page 465. Starts on 465 and ends on 536. So that's about, what, give or take, less than 100 pages?
Oh, that's right.
I forms you had to fill out and all that.
It'd be great if you submit it as as an email for me. However, if you'd like that person interaction or paper form, it is available. The condensed packet is available in our offices to pick up. So, yeah.
And it has to be notarized, right?
Certain parts of it do require notarization, so,
Donna, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Any bank will.
I know another number.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're
I
talking
didn't say a name.
about.
And Steve over at the one.
So yeah, just a few deadlines coming up, and I wish you all the best.
Oh, you mentioned financial reporting, the financial reporting, or disclosures, campaign finance disclosure, there isn't
I
there
was
dates on
advised
that?
to not just leave it
Okay,
up to them.
there you go.
Yeah.
Be on the lookout for finance, campaign finance.
Yeah, you don't want an ethics violation.
Okay, we'll move on to, was there any questions on Gordiana on the elections? Okay, so we'll move on to the River Advisory Board. So Joy had asked that I submit this, go ahead.
Oh, that's fine. Remind me next time I'm on the agenda to just have somebody call me at my seat at the bar. Councilmember Fowler and Warner, I don't think you've ever heard my spiel about Martindale. When I first moved here from Houston, I realized that not all politics is local, as they say. In Martindale, all politics is personal. As our friend with the truck stop is getting ready to find out.
Come on. Am I wrong? Professionals.
Nope, you're not wrong at all.
Okay. Talk real quick, I'll go down our agenda and some recommendations that we've made from it. We talked about the mini pitch for the soccer. We're not opposed to the mini pitch as such, but we are opposed to having any additional impervious cover in the parkland. I think that speaks for itself. If you have questions about it, we can discuss it. I think, while I agree that the parkland, and this is not our purview is the river. The parkland needs to be developed. I think there are ways to do that without putting impervious cover in. Or weeds, I should say. Let's see, we talked about the community assessment visits by the Texas Water Development Board. That is on hold. We spoke about the charm workshop and some of that stuff. We don't have any specific recommendations from that. Okay, one of our ongoing discussions is permitting procedure for docks in the river. There's not a hard and fast rule on how that's supposed to happen, whether it's a floating dock, which you would assume would be okay, except for, I've seen them all the way from here to Seadrift. If you've ever been to Seadrift, it's a lot like Martindale on the coast. Matter of fact, the canoe racing community refers to it as saltwater Martindale. Same kind of politics.
So are you working on a policy for that?
We're working on that. And it's a tough one because it's actually probably more covered by the Corps of Engineers and that sort of thing. And same thing with Texas Parks and Wildlife has a big push into it, but because it's all adjacent to the city limits, there is we believe, some procedure the city can take. We'd like to make a specific recommendation about the erosion at the corner of Northwest River Road and Skulls Crossing. We recommend that the city take steps to avoid further erosion, whether it's seed control mats, proper land management and maintenance. In other words, we stop letting them clear cut to the dirt over there. I mean, that's happened.
Is that in phase one?
No, and that's
Skull.
Skulls Road, yeah. And, no removal of trees from the right of way, et cetera. See, we talked about phase 2 and 3 parks, and that was in conjunction with, the mini pitch and just the ongoing stuff there. We do have, related to that, on February 24th, we have a joint meeting with the Parks, Advisory Board, not committee, Matthew, that threw me off a minute ago. So because a lot of our issues are obviously overlapping, I mean, our parks border the river, we're here to take care of the river, that sort of thing. I missed anything, Georgia Jones? So far, so good. It's good to have a list. We'd like to address, new field activity in the floodway on Southeast River Road. We'd like to recommend that the city again notify the owner of the gravel pit on Southeast River Road that fill added to the floodway is not allowed by the city ordinance and to fine them accordingly. This issue came up a year ago. And if we need to go that far, I could read the email that Mayor Glaze sent to the River Advisory Board. I have the email from Mr. Holmes where he said that no bills had come in after November 21st of last year. I'm sorry, of 2023. And that continues to happen. And that's in violation of the city's own ordinance, which is 153.44 through mostly 44, 53, and so on. But it's interesting that just this one particular, in 153.27 permit procedures, Part C, number 3, the dangers that materials may be swept onto other lands, injury of others. Fill is not the same thing as taking that gravel out. I mean, and I understand what he's trying to do, but, and he's got an engineer's report that we got a copy of last year where he talks about that they've taken out X amount and they've only brought X amount back in. But what they're bringing out is, it's not apples to apples. I mean, loose fill is not gravel that's been packed in there for forever. And so I don't feel I need to beat that horse to death any further, but, you do understand what we're talking about.
You're still bringing in fill right now.
Right.
Yes.
And that's whoever is responsible to, in the city, I've never been able to really ascertain that, needs to stop. And it doesn't matter if it's my friend or if it's, if it's my enemy. My job, I would assume, whoever's job that is to take care of it and stop it. I mean, it's by the city's ordinance. I'm on the board of directors for the Texas Water Supply, and I've been racing it for a long, long time. And one of the things I have to do all the time is make rules and enforce things on my friends. I mean, we moved to Martindale because of the river, and because of that race. And so, it's tough luck. I mean, we got rules to enforce. When I worked for the city of Houston, I was as apolitical as you could possibly get. My job was to implement policy. My job was not to make policy. So someone's job is to implement these ordinances, so it needs to happen. Then the part I always love wasting time on is additions and deletions for the next river meeting. We don't have anything to report from that. And from old business, we would like to say that if we'd recommend that in order to protect city resources, and in our case, especially the river, we recommend city go on record. We recommend the city go on record as we oppose ETJ elimination or the ability to opt out of the ETJ.
Well, how are we gonna do that?
It's in spirit.
In spirit, you gotta take your
We
taxes.
gotta fight it.
That you go on record as,
Okay, that's understandable.
as being opposed to that.
I'm happy to take any questions if you have them. And if not, I'm gonna go sit at my bar stool and drink my margarita.
Well, I could ask a favor of you. I'm really, I know David Price, I'm on the board of TRPA.
Mhm.
And man, we need a zero discharge treatment. And we need to find a way, all hands on deck. And, that's all I gotta say,
We fully support that. I think if you look back in the records that the original.
Well, I'm saying support, but help. I mean, I'm doing the best I can. I've been picking David Price's brain and he's quite brilliant, but it could be the survival of the city if we do want, but that's probably a beer talk.
Look, you go ahead. Oh, this is the Northwest River Road.
No, this is the Skull Crossing.
Skulls Crossing, I'm sorry.
So I did take those pictures.
Thank you. You can see that their SW3P is not working.
If you go to the next one, you'll see the erosion control.
What is an SWP3?
Stormwater prevention, and I never can remember it all myself. But that's when you see it'll either be hay bales, or in this case, they have the silt fencing. It never works properly because it's never installed properly. And because there's not somebody, and that's not just here. It's just a common failure point. And so you see that all of that soil has made its way now down into the river.
This is all from when Lanzola cut.
Yep, they cut.
They
all
cut
the
that
small
because
trees and
that's what I was trying
you
to
can
show
see
you.
the roots now.
That
It's
used
not
to be
holding
flat, that used to be on the slope.
Right.
And now it's fallen. Because they just cut all these trees that are on the bank. And this is about halfway down, and this is a year and a half later.
And that's in your right of way.
Yeah, it is in our right of way. So
It
this
all
is now
lands
our
on
way. So this is what you're not supposed to do.
Yeah, I know.
Is cut these trees like this, because those roots are holding that land. And now that's gonna happen, what happened down there is now gonna happen on this street. And that same area is now gonna fall. If you go to the last slide, you'll see that that's the whole premise of educating, that's how you lose the land. And we have a prime example, school book, textbook example, we had some, unfortunately, due to our property now, by cutting and not planting some things appropriate. The longer you leave it in, there's the root examples. The longer you leave it in, you just cut things down to the top, you lose all the roots.
Studies will show you that grasses hold banks better than trees. Blah, blah, blah. We could get into a whole different discussion there.
Yeah, well, Virginia's on here, so we're safe.
Well, no, it's,
But yeah,
that's what I did with the city. I mean, so, look, I'm not here to make policy. We're an advisory board. We're trying to advise you to the best of our ability.
I had a question
Yeah.
then. So would you say then with the fill that's being done in the Martindale diversion of the floodway of the gravel pit, that there should be silt fencing there
I'm
as
saying
well?
there should be no fill brought in and that they should be fined for bringing it in.
Right, because they're bringing it in from the peaker plant or gosh knows where, and the trucks, it looks like a construction zone there, but there is no silt fencing there.
Well, at the very least, but my point is, they should probably be required to remove it. You know, when Mike hates it when I say, you know, or Mr. McLeod, sorry, man. He hates it when I talk about I worked for the city of Houston for X amount of time, and this is Martindale, it's not Houston. But one of the things that we had is when we would accept fill in the Parks Department, that fill had to be tested. So when they were making one of the widenings of Interstate 10, I don't know how much wider they get, quite frankly. They wanted to give us that fill dirt, and by golly, fill dirt is a valuable resource. But nobody wanted to pay to test it. And so I could move it from one city property to another city property, but I couldn't move it from state property to the city property. So in this case, it's, I think, an even more egregious thing, because what you've done is you brought it into floodway, which means it's going to, you know, now we're affecting Staples and all these other folks downstream.
And Southeast Road.
And Southeast River Road.
All on it
Right,
too.
I mean, it's, and then where's that still gonna go next? You know, down to Morrison Creek, you know, so, et cetera, et cetera.
Could y'all research what you would like planted in certain places with pricing and recommendations exactly where it should be planted?
You say pricing?
Mhm.
That's a very, moving target, but we can
I
tell you what,
understand.
I think we've made a
Are you
recommendation.
talking about at Skull Crossing?
Or
Or just in
wherever in the park, I know there were also concerns.
Yeah,
with
the trees,
phase one.
free trees, that would be something.
Yeah, that, I mean, I don't know where the flyer's over in front of Mr. McGovern.
Wild.
That comes with conditions though, you have to like.
Says
deed your
100-year
property.
floodplain, right?
Well, you have to
Every-
deed your property over to them for a certain amount of years.
you have to give them an easement.
Easement.
You have to give them an
There's-
they,
so
because
There
they
were
come and work on it.
conditions.
They
There were
work on it. They come
conditions.
and work on it.
So it sounds like you're getting something for free, but you're ruling.
You know, Kent Finley, one time, Sterling was going to get a donkey from someone. He said, man, Dad, they're gonna give me a free donkey. And Kent said to Sterling, Sterling, there's no such thing as a free donkey. Councilman Fowler.
In meeting with the FEMA representative that works with the Capcom area, he provided us with a very lengthy document that contains, I forget how many options of materials and methods for dealing with erosion, whether it's plantings or this or that, or like 12 different things that you can do to deal with erosion that FEMA will pay for. He said that he would encourage Martindale based on, he came out one day and just was looking around briefly. He encouraged us to apply. There's 2 different deadlines this spring. One's at the end of February, which is a minute, and the other one is in April. He said he would submit the same basic proposal to both of the opportunities, because either one, we would be eligible to receive funding to do those plans. But you would have to, in order to submit a proposal, you would have to have decided which one of the 12, right, you want to do and where you want them done. And so I think there are options, and there are already existing models for how to deal with these erosion problems, if anyone's interested.
Well, I think everyone, I mean,
I don't
can't
know.
speak for council,
You'd be surprised.
I speak to council, not for council, but so you know, these things are things you have to make decisions about
Mhm,
as the council. And
mhm.
so, you know, what we don't want to, in my opinion, is you don't want a mechanical solution to the problem. That's to harden the surface or to, you know.
Right, right, right.
That's a non-starter in my book. What we find out is every time somebody's tried to do a mechanical
None
trying
of
to
them
solve
are
a problem.
mechanical.
But if you come to plants, then it's just, what do you want? You know, you want that riparian edge to be as stable as possible. You know, all of us that, you know, all those that moved here for the river, we think we pretty much know that what we did is we decided to live on the most vulnerable place possible. I mean, you accept that. You know, I remember when we were closing, they were like, you don't need flood insurance, you're not in the flood zone. I said, that's okay, we're gonna get flood insurance. And so the next week they came back and said, you need flood insurance, we can't close on it. It's okay, we've got flood insurance, you know? And so all these plans, and FEMA doesn't have the best track record. And that's bad press for the most part, because FEMA is not a first responder organization, but they get looked at as one. FEMA is a recovery agent, they're not a response agency.
But you're absolutely right.
And they're a
100%.
mitigation agency, which is where, what you're
That's
talking
what that's
about.
coming in from, is
Correct.
through the mitigation. And that's what they're trying to improve their track record with, is by stepping up mitigation and actually dealing with things like erosion problems on riverfront, so that we don't have to come in at the moment of an emergency with.
I would say that from my current reading, I wouldn't place a lot of stock in anything FEMA and grant in the same sentence. You know, I would probably be more inclined to buy stock in Tesla at this point, because it seems to be funded at the same point. You can take that for whatever it's worth. So, but the plans are set. It's just a matter of how do you fund them. Am I not supposed to say stuff like that?
No, that's why we have you. Like, that's why we want a group of people that have specialization in river issues to make recommendations, because we don't, right? So like, by getting, I always look at it like this. I have adopted all the dogs that I'm allowed to ever for the rest of my life, probably more. I'm probably over limit in terms of dog life.
You hear that? There's a limit.
But
There is.
that's my thing, right? Like, other people have other things. And by having y'all that are really good with river, and having some park people that really know and care deeply about the parks, and having somebody else that really, really, really wants a treatment facility that is zero discharge. We all, like, it's all necessary, and everybody plays their part. So that's why there is a committee to make recommendations. And that's why I'm sitting here saying, look at, there is a 1,000,000-page booklet that they will pay for us to do this. You can make your own, or you can use theirs, and they give you all of the information you need on how to do it and what it costs and blah, 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 so that you can turn around and ask them for the money.
Correct.
Now, is that the best idea? I don't know, but y'all have a better idea of that. So if you're interested, that's out there. And I don't know how to pick one of a book of things that go, hey, these are really good ideas because we said so. Like, I don't know which one's better. I don't know whether FEMA is the best place to get the money. I know they have it and they're offering it to us. And they're saying your problem fits what we're giving money out for. So if you guys are interested, great. If you're not, great.
No, certainly.
But you're the recommender.
Actually, the 98 flood, that was all that parkland, it was all paid by.
Right.
I would like to say I'm a little surprised at the blowback that we've gotten about the little tiny bit of cleanup that we did down at Skull Crossing. There was an old chair there. There was a lot, somebody had dumped wood that could be kindling. And so we were quite aware of that. We didn't want people going down the sides of the bridge. So we made sure that there's nothing being taken from the riverbank. And we're also dealing with safety issues, because like we said in another meeting, we are gonna have people park up above, and we're gonna institute paid parking up there to control the amount of people that are starting to use that area. And so we're gonna make a walkway from the parking area across the road that goes towards San Marcos and then a walking path that would go down and across the bridge. The only legal place to get into the river is right there where it says loading and unloading. And I think Michelle and Steve have kind of established that there. Usually the paddlers and the fishermen are not a big problem because they're early in the morning. They're usually gone by about noon. It's actually the picnickers and the swimmers in the late afternoon that are parking all over the road on the top. And so we were very aware of all the vegetation issues and everything. So now when we're getting this extreme criticism, we were pretty surprised because we were very careful about all of the cleanup that was done. We said, don't cut the grass clear down, don't take, just raise the canopy up to 6 feet and only go back like 6 feet so that, because we don't want anybody going over the bank for safety issues and because we don't want them tearing the vegetation off the bank of the river. So we kept all of that stuff in mind when we asked the service to clean that area up. And it took a good 8 hours to clean it up. It was quite, people dump garbage all over town.
It's amazing.
It's a problem wherever you go.
I noticed somebody put the letter up or somebody, you put it up, the letter from Mr. Elizondo.
Yes.
I would take issue, and I've previously taken issue with the letter. It goes back to the ordinance itself. The ordinance does not say that you can put fill back in. And his permit doesn't say he can put fill back in. His permit is for gravel removal. And so I don't know him. I mean, he may be the greatest guy on the planet. I may sit over there and drink with him. I don't even know that.
Mr. Elizondo?
No, Mr. Holmes.
Oh,
I mean,
Holmes.
in your email, you say he's an honorable man, so I assume that he is, except for the fact he keeps breaking his ordinance over and over and nobody's
Well,
doing
he's
anything.
had
about
that
it.
gravel pit for years and years, and we can go and revisit with him and see if he's willing to have another engineer come out and evaluate what's going on. We can ask him what's.
It's
what's
not an
going
engineering
on.
question.
He's already breaking the ordinance.
It is an engineering
No, it's not an
question.
engineering
Yeah, it is
question.
an
No, ma'am.
engineering question because
There's nothing that says you can keep it at the same amount of conveyance that it currently has. What it says is you can't put fill in the floodway.
well, I'll have to go back.
The
and
code,
look at it.
the 15344 B1, encroachments are prohibited, including fill, new construction, substantial improvements, and other development within the adopted regulatory floodway, unless it has been demonstrated through hydrologic and hydraulic analysis performed in accordance with standard engineering practice that the proposed encroachment would not result in any increase in flood levels within the community during the occurrence of a base flood charge. The letter that's written by the engineer, Chris Elizondo, there is no study. He is just using a discussion that he had with Mr. Holmes with regard to whether he is in fact going over. This was a one-off meeting that he had with the man.
In other words, if it was an engineering study, they would have surveyed it, they would be able to come back and say, at X number of CFS coming down the San Marcos and Blanco rivers, we're going to get this elevation of flooding.
But in his experience, I talked to Mr. Elizondo, he said we could require him to do all of those studies and the result would be the same.
Of course he's gonna tell you that. This is the most ridiculous thing on the planet, is your ordinance says no fill. I mean, it's that simple. It says no fill.
Then they'll have to take all of the dirt out of phase one. That.
That is down at the level of the ground. What he's putting in is
Oh, so
a,
you're going for different rules for yourself.
no, I don't want my land to be flooded with a bunch of dirt and the road that I use to get to my land. It is a
But
construction
we should have
site
done
down
the
there
same
going on.
study. Then the
It's a
city,
construction site going on.
the
there,
city
Mayor.
didn't do
Have
the
you
same
seen the trucks there and seen?
study for
They're
the
coming
phase
out
one.
every 20 minutes.
No, Mayor, the rule is, it's controlled by the city ordinance, but it's also controlled by TCEQ.
Yes,
So Mr. Holmes writes a letter, you get a letter from Chris Elizondo that was dated to Adrian on October the sixth of
Yes.
2023, correct? We all see that.
And I'm willing to go
He's
back.
finishing his point, please.
But just a
I would
minute,
like for
I'm
him to
willing
finish
go
his
back.
point.
I'm willing to go back.
No,
and
no, I have
visit
something,
Mr.
I have something to tell you about the facts. Let's tell you the facts. Okay, so a letter was written to the river committee that you presented, and that I was in attendance. We did not have a September meeting and October meeting, right? And they brought up this letter and said, oh, it's been taken care of. And then there was another email that was written in January that Mr. Holmes wrote to you, and you were kind enough to share it with the river committee. And it says to the river advisor, I spent time talking to Mr. Holmes, and I'm thinking of a conversation, he hit that down and wrote what you talked about. Please note that trucks are hauling gravel out of the gravel pit after November 21st, 2023. Mr. Holmes is a man of integrity. No, I'm not questioning him. Met the man, he's a nice guy. This is what his email says. Hello, this is dated January the 5th. Hello, Mayor Glade, just updating activities of my pit on Southeast River Road. No dirt has been brought into the pit since November the 21st, 2023. Since November 21st, 2023, 48 loads of gravel have been taken out of the pit. At this time, there are no plans to bring any more dirt out. The goal is to remove gravel and replace it with dirt at a zero net increase in volume. That is definitely what he's supposed to do. Much more material has been taken out than brought in. I am operating under a current permit, AP number 0003885 with TCEQ. I remind you about the email dated October 6, 2023. So when this first came out, I went and looked at AP number 3885, and it was a current permit. Subsequently, after the last meeting that I went to, and these guys won't let this freaking bone go, and they're the river committee, I went and looked up the AP number again, and it is expired. There is a no gravel pit, a permit for Mr. Holmes anymore at his location. I subsequently went through it because I couldn't find it when I first found it. This took me 15 minutes to figure it out. But I went and actually got the registration details for the permit. This permit was actually applied for, the only permit that's ever been applied for with Mr. Holmes, October the 5th of 2023, the day before the first email that was sent to the city. His permit was applied for October the 5th, 2023. It was accepted October 23rd, 2023, and it expired October 23rd, 2024. He no longer has a gravel pit permit. I didn't believe it. So I called TCEQ. I must be reading this wrong. No, you're not reading it wrong, Mr. Doe. In fact, to really throw salt on the wound, the TCEQ has been responsible for gravel permits since 2012, according to Texas Government Code, Administrative Code 342. And they did an update on it in July, that was July 12th of 2012, and in June of 2019, they did an update. So Mr. Holmes knowingly sent you an email saying that he is running a pit since 2005, and we know he needed a TCEQ permit since 2012. So if the river committee had not said anything, Mr. Holmes wouldn't have even gotten a gravel pit permit. So he was operating for a significant amount of period of time, openly, without a permit.
And he doesn't have a permit to even bring the.
There is obviously also an issue when you have a gravel pit and when you fill, there is a ground protection permit, which all construction, Lanzola might even have to do it when they're doing construction, when they're doing a build out on property, that you also need for that. Whether that is, that's not my purview to do it. I'm not TCEQ. That's TCEQ's issue. But our ordinance is vague because, like you said, it has to have a hydraulic study. The engineer, according to the mayor, wrote an email that protects the city that our ordinance in fact doesn't enforce. But there is another enforcement activity that needs to be happening, and it's at the TCEQ level. It's not at the city. I don't think so. That's just my 2 cents. You're beating a dead horse on this one. You know what I mean? We have an engineer study, the mayor's saying we're good. But I'm gonna tell you right now, the permit issue for me is more disturbing than anything. Okay?
But I believe that he is a man of integrity, and we can go back and revisit this. And he would be happy to do whatever he needs to do.
He's
He has said
violating
so.
it right now. He's
Drop it,
violating his
Sam.
permit.
Hey, you know what?
Okay, you're not
You know what?
listening to me.
Hey, wait a minute, I'm gonna say something. I
There's
said
no,
it.
there's
Hey,
no violation of the city, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
There is no
Here's,
violation of
here's
the
my
city.
point, as I said earlier, let's get on board, let's get a zero discharge plan and do some construction instead of bickering all the time, and come together as a team, and don't be so adversarial. You know, damn.
My land is gonna flood with silt as a result of this.
You know,
No, the water doesn't
This-
even go across your land.
So, you know what?
Yes, Joy.
It goes across the road.
Y'all have some enforcement issues to take care of. I just want to add that the 40th annual Great Texas River Cleanup is happening on March 1st. And for the very first time, Martindale is a part of it. It's on San Marcos's map where volunteers can sign up to come here and clean up. We're going to be meeting here at Carlton's courtyard. And we're going to divide into two groups and clean up at Skull and at the crossing at 1979.
What time?
I think it's like 8 in the morning.
It's the 54th anniversary.
Wow.
I'm going starting at 7.
But maybe the
Yeah,
Great
Rick,
Texas.
yeah, this is the
the
original.
40th.
So it's a great thing. I've been doing it for 30, 40 years. A great event, barbecue, everybody come, clean up the river. And let's please all just get together and do the right thing. Let's please don't bicker because we got everybody against us. Let's just focus on really big issues, which what's my opinion would be a zero discharge treatment. That would save the river. It's all about taking care of the river. And I don't want, let's just be civil and polite, you know, like I said. I don't want to have what we had the last two meetings were absolutely ridiculous. I don't want to go through that. So let's please have a
So
conversation.
we will go and have a conversation with Mr. Holmes. And we'll try to put this to bed if there's something that he needs to do. I know he is a man of integrity and he will do it. He has said so.
Again, I don't know the man, so, I mean, I don't have a bone to pick with him one way or the other.
I think that's his next point.
Yeah, it's kind of like me driving to San Antonio in the morning.
Well, I felt like the ordinance has been fulfilled when he hired.
And I agree with you there. The way the letter reads, that's the interpretation that we
Again,
made.
All we do is we give you our
Yes,
best advice.
absolutely.
And I would like for you guys to find us some money, because we got several properties that are for sale right now, zero discharge treatment plant. Let's go for the big thing to take care of that river. This bickering is, we gotta let that go and just go on and do bigger, better things, okay? You know, he got his permit, he got his TCE permit, so
No, he doesn't.
let's drop it, drop
Okay,
it, it's done. It's finished,
yeah.
You know,
Thank you,
Thank
Jim,
you.
for coming.
Thank you
All
for
right,
coming.
thank you.
and thanks. Thank you. Have a good day.
We got a lot to do tonight.
Yeah, we gotta
So
get
let's
going.
try to get through the parks.
Y'all are gonna be here late.
Okay, so we're gonna skip the first one. It was about the grant. We'll be talking about that in the future. And so the naming of the parks was something that the Parks Department wanted to suggest to the city council that we do come up with names for the parks. So I've been mayor for 3.5 years, and it's taken me about 3 years to understand the difference between phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. So I think the naming of the parks would be something that would be beneficial for the community. So that if we had different names signifying which areas we're talking about. Is that something that the city council would like to put forward on that recommendation? Terry, what do you think?
I think I was in the bathroom.
Okay,
That's what
Matthew,
you
what
get
do
for
you
going
think?
I'm not, at this time, I have not seen a name that is interesting.
But would you be willing to go forward to consider
I
naming
think,
the three?
I think we're gonna have more than 3 parks, so I think that needs
Well,
to be
those
considered.
3 parks.
That needs to be, I don't wanna have 3 different names.
You don't want to have 3 different, but in the
Right.
future for.
I mean,
How would you
naming
know
them,
which
of course,
one it
makes
is then?
sense.
How do you know which one you're
Well,
going to?
2 of them are basically together, or they will be, they're adjacent properties, so.
Yeah,
I understand being across the street, on the other side of 1979, that does make sense. But everything on this side of 1979, is basically going to eventually is one piece of land, so naming it two different two different names on the same side is very
so
challenging.
you're against 3 names.
That's correct. I understand having one on one side of 1979 and having another one on the other, but I don't wanna
But,
make another third
but
one.
you're okay to find a name for the park.
Yeah, of course.
I'm okay to find a name for the park too. I didn't really remember what the question.
Yeah, 'cause I had to give directions to someone the other day and I tried to explain to them where the park was in 1979. And I said, we call it phase 1, and she's typing in phase 1 on Google, and it's not surprisingly work.
I think it also helped curb a lot of the vendors and what's going on too, just providing more sense of ownership in the community and knowing what's going on instead of phase 1 or whatever you feel.
Like it's
calling
not
it.
finished.
Yeah.
Sam,
I'd like to see phase 1 be named and as he mentioned, not have 3 separate names.
so
So
go forward with trying to find a name for the park.
definitely, yes, thank you, yes.
I'm not against naming the parks, but we're way too premature. We have to get more land, we have to, I will say, I'm the one that got the flood, city land park. I know about parks. I've been pushing it since 2018. I'm with you, but I think at this time, we need to focus on other things and eventually add it, but for me personally, you know me, I'm a tight one. And I would love to have something that who wants to give us donations, like, for example.
The McLeod Park.
No, for example, my wife treated Lady Bird Johnson on her deathbed. And I would love to say, and she knows Lucy Johnson, which was her daughter. I would love to say, you know what? Lucy Johnson, we got some parks down here. Would you be willing to give us a donation? Because since your mother was keep the junkyards, keep the roadways beautiful. Hey, give us a couple $100,000, man. We'll call it the Lady Bird Park. That's how it usually works with donations. And I think we're way too far ahead. The focus, like I tried to tell the advisory committee, let's focus on the prize. Let's focus on,
So you want to obtain parkland before you meet?
yes, we still got skulls we're gonna talk about. I think we're way too early, but I agree we need to name it eventually. But I think for me, the priority would be acquire.
What happened to the top?
Let me speak, sir.
No, I'm just
Sir,
asking.
sir, beg your pardon, I'm speaking, you're allowed to have the floor. I don't like being interrupted. Okay, so here's my point is like, if we can get donations or get the names, like, to do this, and like I say, acquire more property, I think that would be great. I'm for naming it, but I think it's a little bit too premature.
Okay, and Laura, what's your,
I'm in favor of naming the parks.
okay,
See how we do that?
Okay.
One sentence, one sentence.
now your next one was, okay, so I attended the parks meeting, and one of the things that is dear to Ramon's heart is that he would like to see a park pass for people who live in the ETJ. And, so one of the ways that they would, since that hasn't been a hot topic for city council, the Parks Department would like to have permission, and it's gonna be the very first, agenda item, and it'll be 3.1. Motion to allow the Parks Advisory Board to survey the ETJ residents to determine whether ETJ citizens should receive a parking pass for whatever amount of money that the city council would decide. But first, what they want to do is just do this survey, like Survey Monkey or something. So that's what was discussed. So that's, do you have any more to say about?
The only thing I would add would be, it's not just a yes, no, do you want to be surveyed, or sorry, would you purchase a pass or not? There's a lot more information in there, such as, how often do you visit the parks? What part of the parks do you use, the parks, the river, what would you like to see, that kind of stuff. so that as we do go on with the building of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, we
And
know
Skulls.
and Skulls will know exactly what we want to, you know, how we want to move forward with that, what we want to add into those parks.
But Schools isn't currently a park, correct?
Correct.
Well,
Right.
well, it will be eventually.
But as of now, but as of
Okay,
now.
but I want to, okay, I'm a paddler. I got friends that are paddlers. I believe in an annual pass, like Texas Parks and Lime do. I'm all for it, but right now, for example, this weekend, we're gonna put the park mobile signs back up. Somebody stole them. And we're gonna do it the right way. So I think again, we're way too premature. Let's get our park mobile signs up. And I have promised people that we will do some kind of an annual pass. And for the ETJ, I think it'd be fair for anybody from Houston, Dallas, if they come regularly, if they want to do an annual pass, I think we should do it for people that use it regularly. But again, we're gonna put signs up in Skulls for paid parking. We gotta put our signs at Park Mobile. I'm all for it. But I think it's a little bit.
That's why we're doing this groundwork here now is to get the survey, because last time I was here, we had talked about, you know, who's in the ETJ, how many people are actually gonna use it, and that's kind of what this data is trying to ascertain is to answer the question y'all had asked at the last meeting.
So they came up with some sample questions as to what they might ask on this survey. And there, can you put that up again? Deanna, Corey's email. It was
The very bottom.
at the very bottom, yeah.
I know it was like how many people are within your family. There you go.
What questions would be useful to ask if we're trying to find out how many people in the ETJ even use the park?
Oh, somebody contacted me the other day, they messaged me and asked me if there's any way to reconsider the way that parking works. And I'm gonna confess right up front, I have never gotten a pass or paid for parking down there. So, y'all just jump in and explain it to me if I get it wrong. But this person was saying they like to go when they have like a lunch break and just go sit down at the park, sit and stare at the water and whatever and get a fresh mind or whatever. And then they were saying it's the same price to go for his 30-minute lunch. It costs him $10 as it would be if he went all day with his family. And I think that's correct, but I kind of took him at his word. So he was just asking, is there any way to have like an hourly rate where it doesn't cost him more for the 30 minutes of fresh air than it does for his lunch that he pays? So I don't know. I just thought it was a good time to bring that up as a question to ponder.
Well, then it seems like we'd have to have meters or something to
Yeah.
determine how long they were
Well, a
actually
lot of
there.
those parking things, like the park mobile stuff, like if you park in downtown San Antonio, like we did when we went to that conference, it says, do you want 2 hours, do you want 4 hours, do you want 6 hours? And you just push the little thing or you
Choose
tell
and
it on your
choose.
phone
Mhm.
and you can do it for all day, or you could do it for this amount of time. And I don't know, I'm just saying, I don't have a strong opinion, I'm just putting it out.
Mayor? Yeah, but
Real quick, I just wanted to say, I understand what you're saying about not wanting to address it right now, but at the same time, it's easy to say when it doesn't affect you directly.
Mhm.
Like the families that live outside that would like to use the park and can't afford to pay $10.
Right.
That's
Like
why-
that guy with
It's
the
not
lunch
just for,
break.
it's not just.
That's
having
why,
a community.
that's why I want to do an annual pass. I think that's the best solution.
Well, and I get that too, but until we get to that, you're like, well, we'll just wait, but
Well,
these people are still wanting to
we
use the park.
we haven't even got our park mobile signs up yet.
We
Yeah, but
have,
they
But
we
again, we're-
did, they got
we-
paid.
Like, this is a problem. I hate to be this way, be callous. I mean, the citizens get a free pass because they pay taxes here. We have to have revenue to keep the thing mowed, to maintain it. And I agree with you, an annual pass, and I promise people that I want to do an annual pass. I think that's the fairest way. If you're a regular user, you pay it like Texas Park, like their state parks, you know?
Well, part of what we discussed wasn't that they would get away with not having to pay anything. we were just discussing.
No, I didn't say that.
We're just discussing then possibly being able to have a discounted rate or be able to have a discounted rate and possibly come and pick up trash or do things
Well,
for the river.
it'd be too I just think, my.
Work on an advisory
Yeah,
board.
yeah, you're, just work through it with me.
I think we beat this, to death.
Yeah,
I think the survey's a great idea. It's
And that's what we're asking for
The
tonight.
questions are well written.
Yeah,
They're
and
a
well
lot of
done.
the same ones that I would ask.
And I agree with you.
This is
Yeah.
the best, no offense to whatever you've done before, but this is the best work you've done, really. I can
And I
tell you thought
appreciate
it through.
I
This is really
appreciate your
good,
effort.
so.
Both.
So
So
let's
that's
just
what the
go.
motion is for, right?
Yeah,
To
that's
accept.
what they're asking, and
Okay.
that's what 3.1
I'll make a
is.
motion.
Really?
Yeah, let's go ahead and
What's-
skip to 3.1 since we're doing this, and then
Really?
we'll come back to the chief's report. So the 3.1 is motion to allow the Parks Advisory Board to survey ETJ residents to determine whether ETJ citizens would receive a parking pass. And the city council hasn't set on, yes.
Thank you for discussion. What? Are we trying to draw inferences from this survey? And then how are we going to ensure that there's not sampling bias? How is we going to collect this? Are we going to do direct mailers? Is it Survey Monkey posted, anybody can respond to it 17 times? I have concerns about the data and how we interpret the data on the back. I think the questions are great. I'm just concerned about the procedure.
I am an actual qualified trained statistician in quantitative and qualitative statistics. I would be more than happy to take whatever questions they want and do all of the sampling and do all of the reliability and push all the right buttons on Survey Monkey, because I did it for all 130 schools in AISD for 10 years. I did it for universities across 4 states. So if you have concerns about the validity of a survey that's going to go out to a few hundred people, I would be happy to do that. And I will give them the statistical analysis and they can present it.
We don't need to do chi-square tests or anything like that.
And
But-
that's how you know. That's the only way
But-
you're going to know.
But my point is that we don't get 17 responses from the same like. 5
Because
people.
most
How-
of the
how we
time,
track it.
when we've done surveys in this town, we get 17 total.
Okay.
I'm just saying,
Let me-
why would this be different or held to a different standard? But I will get you all that data and I will make sure all the guardrails are on.
No, I was just concerned about any QR code being put on and then how we
I can do all that in the
interpret it on the
back
back end.
I can put all that into your Survey Monkey so that it comes out.
Would
with
you
all
like
data.
that we table this until next?
No,
meeting?
I think it's
No,
okay
I
to
think-
proceed. It's just something to consider.
You know what you're doing, I know on that, so. I know there's ways on that to verify. I know, I've done them before, but I'm not at your level.
Can I add something to it? I'd like to add to it, just say survey local residents or, you know, why are we just including the ETJ? Why don't we?
No. We just want to do the
ETJ,
ETJ.
okay, I'll be quiet.
Because we wouldn't want the park pass to go beyond the ETJ.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
And let me just add, they were talking about, working with the water department since their district is bigger. And so we can put it on our city website. And then if they work with the water district, they're gonna get the ETJ people.
Let me just add one thing to that, because I did speak to Martindale Water Supply about this a couple of days ago. They were there in their office folding up ballots that they are gonna send out for the upcoming election. The ballots they were folding up were going to everybody in their CCN. 80% of their CCN is in our ETJ. They have the list of all the mailing labels, 220 mailing labels of every exact address of everybody that, and it's separated out from the names that we receive from Martindale Water Supply that has the residents of the city. And so they are willing to give us a copy of the 220 mailing labels that they have of everybody in their
But we
CCN.
don't want to mail it. If they're already mailing a bill and they're willing to include a little blip about our survey, that's the preferable route to
If
go.
you want to be able to do all of that validity stuff, you want to get the list of labels, even if you're not going to mail them.
Oh,
You do want all of
I
them.
just wanted us to have the names of everybody that is under Martindale Water Supply in their CCN, which is also in our ETJ.
It's more than 220.
Well, they have all the labels, they'll print them up to us for like $10, they said. And I mentioned that to you, so do you have anything to say about that?
No, just like what I originally told you, that it would be more efficient if they just put it on a flash drive so we can play with the data.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There you go, good point.
We have a lot of the mailing addresses, also as we've looked at the annexation, issues as well, so.
Okay, so if the city council is willing to allow the Parks Committee, the Parks Advisory Board.
I'll make a motion.
That's the motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to allow the Parks Advisory Board to survey the ETJ residents to determine whether ETJ citizens should receive a parking pass for X amount of dollars.
I second.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else, Ramon? I kind of cut you off.
That's all I had. The only other thing was the part, the grants, but that was previously mentioned, he's been talking about, so.
Thank you.
What is the next meeting? I missed that.
We're supposed to
We're
have,
having a joint meeting.
We're having a
on the
joint,
24th.
yeah.
We're
Oh,
gonna-
I'll be at that meeting.
I
hope so.
You did know that our sign got stolen, you knew that.
Oh, yeah.
That was what I was talking about with the vandalism.
Yeah, we're gonna fix that problem.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna do that this week. So,
We're gonna be there.
you know, another thing,
That'll be it, that'll be it.
And you're welcome to stay, but if you want to leave,
you're probably ready to go.
How are y'all fixing them? Just because we've discussed it at our meeting, and I'm curious as
We're gonna
to.
put
It's
it in
top
concrete.
secret. It's top secret. Sorry.
Put them in
We
concrete.
don't want to tell the public how we're gonna,
Okay.
you know,
They can't jack them out.
I don't want to go on record.
No,
That really bummed me out. I worked-
seriously.
I've been here too long. Time to go.
Thank you.
We'll get those in for you.
Thank
I appreciate it.
Okay, we're ready.
5 minutes.
Thanks, sir. I'll get back to you, man. Good evening, y'all.
Hey, good evening.
So this is the annual racial profiling report that I have to submit to the state of Texas. I got it submitted by March 1st, so I wanted to get this, city council so y'all could see it and everything, just in case y'all had some questions. And I can come back to my next month, or next week, or next city council meeting and address anything that y'all may have on this. But really, it's how this works is it tabulates all of our traffic stops, the ones that the physical stops, not any pedestrian stops, anything like that, physical traffic stops. So we made 744 total stops. And of those, it goes through and asks a bunch of questions about, things that we do. Coupled with this, I'm required by law to look at our videos. So I look at all of our different videos and make sure there's no racial profiling. So you go find the ones that are like searches and so forth. We have very few searches. If you see on there, there's a section for searches. Yeah, we don't search that many cars of ones we pull over. I know there's I'm not trying to bring this up, but I'll bring it up real quick. I know there's a nightmare going on in Lockhart about searches and so forth, about what they do. We follow the law, what the state law allows, and we go forward from there. So that's pretty much what we do. Is there any questions? I know you guys get to read this and y'all need to hear me standing out there talking. But, is there any questions about the numbers or anything y'all want to see or anything? That's about.
So you compile this to verify and to say that you do not discriminate against any certain race, and then you just pull someone over based on what they did, or, I mean, is this just to prove that by you saying, okay, I pulled over this flag, I pulled over this person, they were Hispanic? Is that what this numbers tell us?
It does. It breaks it down by race, because when we pull someone over, we're required to find out their race or ethnicity. Hispanics and ethnicity, not a race. So really, it's sort of strange to me how it happens, but on the computer, you put white Hispanic or black Hispanic, because there's people that are black from Central America and so forth, or others that are Hispanic as well. So you just got to put that in there. And if they refuse, sometimes, you don't know. So
you just make an educated guess, but the majority of people cut, because it's really not confrontational. But,
Well, when the questions say, doesn't it say, or did you know the race or color before you pulled them over?
correct.
And it always says no.
Well, because, I mean, you're more than welcome to come ride with us sometime. It's hard to see what someone's racing is
Right.
coming at you at 70 or 80 miles an hour.
Right.
Or
Or
whatever kind.
tinted windows.
Yeah, we get 10 windows in our cars and they got 10 windows and it's hard to see someone's race in a vehicle. I promise you that.
Mhm.
So, you're not gonna see someone's race before you pull them over. And you don't know really until you walk up to the door. But there is no disparities in our stuff, which we're not racially profiling. The only thing I don't like about this report, I'll just to be honest with you guys, is the census data. It's the very last page.
Yeah.
And so I'm required to go through and gather census data for the city. It's hard to find exact census data that will answer all the questions that are asked of me on this from one specific location. Some of them have some of that data, but you can't use some data. So this is the one that I use. And, you know, I hate to say it, I know that the population number is not correct. Because,
Wait, what is, I can't read it. What does it say? Sorry, I need new glasses.
Censusreporter.org.
Oh, okay.
yeah, that's the one,
Based on 2020 census data.
yes. And then so the last data census was 2020, and so this is the same data that I used in last year's report, and probably the one that Harry used as well, in any kind of racial profiling report before that. So hopefully someone will put a decent, so I think we got 1,236 people in the city now. This is not showing that number, right? So, this is showing a different number. I just looked at it.
No,
Oh, 13,
She-
Yeah,
Fascinatingly, I was just listening to an attorney the other day that was talking about city structures and in Texas, and he was saying that it's not uncommon that a city that wants to be a general rule city that's not right now, you know, like us, we're a type A. He said a lot of times they'll hire somebody, a populations expert, who will come in and do an actual study of our population to come up with what our number is, because like, for example, in Martindale, our census return rate was down 20%. So you're only able to count whoever answered, right? And so he said a lot of times cities that are even halfway to that 5,000 number that they need will find if they do a population study, they have 5,000. They just, the census data is not 100% accurate. Well, 80% accurate for mine. But you know what I'm saying? So you're not the only one that says, you know, I'm sure some of this information is off.
it's off by minute numbers,
Yeah.
as far as my report goes.
Sure.
But I just think that we're doing good on our number. You know, I personally believe there's more than 5 African-American or black people, just ask for black, people living in the city of Martindale. You know, this is all we have.
Right.
One of the things, Chief, that's interesting to me is most of the people that are being pulled over likely are not city residents.
Correct.
So it's more, we're not comparing apples to apples on this one, you know, in terms of racial profiling within the community that's within the city, because the people traveling the road don't reflect the racial profile of the city. So it might be more interesting to compare it to, say, San Marcos or something like that, to see how it might relate there, or other areas. So you can't really take the distribution of stops by race and compare it to our distribution of the racial profile of the city.
Right, if there was a way that I could go and extract, where the people live, the numbers from actual city residents would be probably very, very low, exactly what you're saying, probably, I mean, very, very low.
Does this need to be an action item
No.
next council meeting?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
I was just making sure I answered all the questions in case someone need to correct something or find something different. I always want to make sure it's good to go. I'm going to push send on it, get this state right now, so I can be done with it.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5, and 3.7 are all kind of housekeeping items. So I think we can go through those rather quickly, and we'll do 3.6 last, because that's the short-term
That's the
rental
fun one.
ordinance. So 3.2, adopt the resolution regarding the civil rights policies for the GLO Community Development Grant. And then it gives the numbers, for method of distribution program and the contract number. And so this is something that we've included in the packet, saying that we are not going to discriminate against anybody.
Need a motion?
Yes, please.
Make a motion to adopt the resolution regarding the civil rights policy for the GLO community grant mitigation, the CDBG-MIT method distribution program contract number 24-065-109-E922.
I'll
Thank
second
you.
that.
Okay, Terry. Is there any discussion about it or questions? Okay, all in
Oh, wait,
favor?
I'm sorry, I have a question. So when it says on the very end of it, it says now therefore be it resolved by the city council of the city of Martindale, Texas, that the city of Martindale reaffirms the following, then it lists 5 things. And so I'm assuming those were all earlier affirms, because we're reaffirming them,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And, so what is, like, for example, what is our section 3 policy? What is that?
What is our policy?
That's the housing and urban development.
Yeah.
Or so section 3 of the housing and urban development act.
Gotcha. And then, oh, I see. Okay, okay.
That's a
it
great
takes me
question though,
minute.
because it's kind of vetted there, isn't it?
What's a grapevine? Okay, I got it. And then, I know the rest of them, so fine. Excellent, thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Where did one come?
He was outside.
Oh, he's in the restroom.
Okay,
Talk to chief.
so that was 4.
Oh, no, you're right.
Or Mike Epstein.
Okay. So the motion carries. Okay, and the next one, approve the resolution designating authorized signatories for contractual and financial documents pertaining to the GLO Community Development Block Grant Mitigation, CDBG, MIT, method of distribution, mod program, and the contract number.
Is that in here or is that just?
Yes, it's resolution 2025-02-06-2, .2, meaning it was the second resolution.
No, that's 3-2. You're talking about 3-3. Resolution 25-02-06.1 was civil rights.
Okay, I'm looking at the resolution right here. It is
Help me out.
2025-02-06.2.
Page 25.
Point 2, thank you.
Yeah. A resolution by the city council of the city of Martindale, Texas, designating authorized signatories for contractual
All
documents.
right, you guys are good.
Okay,
I make a motion to approve the resolution designating authorized signatories for contractual and financial documents pertaining to GLO Community Grant Plan, CDBG-MIT method of distribution mod program contract number 24-065-109-E922.
I was like, that.
and Terry seconded it.
Job, Mike.
Is there any discussion? Do you have any questions?
Happy?
Innovating in high school.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the
Give me a
motion
rapper, baby.
carries.
Sold to a man with a light blue shirt.
So.
Okay, and then we have 2 amendments. And these amendments deal with, first, who's going to be the grant administrator. And so we have on here, I believe that Langford. Judy Langford has already signed it. Is amendment number two. They both say amendment number 2.
They just have different types.
So it's City of Martindale Grant Administration and Environmental Services Contract.
Why are they, no, one's the grant administration and the other is engineering.
Right,
So
exactly.
the first one is the administration of environmental service, 190,000.
Yes.
So.
And 170,000 of that goes to the grant administrator?
It's a 2 point something million dollar grant.
Which grant is this one?
This is the one for like fixing the river bend, the bridge. That's not a bridge.
Yeah, this is a 2.375, it's 2 3/8. That's all. 2.375. That's why I always know, you always wonder why I know that it's 3/8. It's 2.375, 237. So that's why they get, 8, I think it's 8% on this. 8 or 9. So yeah, that's what they get. All right, are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, make a motion to approve amendment to the grant administration service contract for the community development block grant mitigation number CDBG MIT Methodology Distribution Program contract number 24-065-109-E922.
I'll second that.
Okay. Are there any questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, let's move on to the next one then.
I just go.
Yes, it's for
Okay.
engineering
Okay, make a
services.
motion to approve amendment number 2 of the engineering service contract for the community development block grant mitigation of CDBG MIT Methodology Distribution Program, contract number 24-065-109-E922.
I'll
Thank
second
you.
that.
And Terry seconds it. Is there any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And I hear no nays, so the motion carries. And then let's move to 3.7. And the contract was included in the packet. Oh, this has to be posted. We've got it out the bulletin board out front. And we've also got it in post offices and it's on our website. It has to be posted for 15 days.
Okay, anything you have to do?
So we're going to, Tony?
It's the Perry election contract.
It's at the very end.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's after the ordinance. It's when- Joint election services contract. Is there anything you want to tell us about this, Dan? I think it's pretty standard, isn't it?
It's sent like this to every city that's gonna participate on the elections, so there's not much drafting to do on here, it's just, like if you wanna do elections with them, these are the terms and conditions.
Sign it or don't do it.
Yeah. Right.
Big brother got you.
I do want to mention something that just to keep in the back of your head, the elections administrator did mention that a lot of, if elections cost is something that starts being a concern to the city, there is also elections in November, it would require, ordinance shifting, et cetera, and it's drastic change, but if that was to be a problem, once that receipt comes back, considering only Lockhart ISD is running elections this May.
It looks like the city on Mustang Ridge, Niederwall, San Marcos, Uline.
Doesn't mean,
College.
Scroll down. Does it have?
It's down in the Marianne Gonzalez,
It
That's
has-
just-
it
that's
has those
everybody that signed the
cities.
contract. That's not who's running them.
and also, even if they do run elections, it does not mean that we split the cost with them because they're not touching our boundaries. Mhm.
So what is our expected cost on this election?
It's looking like around the 10, 12.
Attachment A, okay, so attachment.
I think that was it.
Attachment A, right here. Nothing.
There's nothing on it.
I'm going to sign a contract with them.
Yeah, we had to have an estimate.
He just gave me the estimate because he only,
Yeah,
as of
that
right
was
now,
not-
he only has intended to do elections is Lockhart ISD, and as in the people who we share costs with is Lockhart ISD. Anyone else around us is not doing the May
We
elections,
don't-
they're
we
doing
don't
the,
share boundary with Lockhart at night, Steve.
no, I think it's
we
the
would be paying
proximity, I think. He pointed out at the map and pretty much told me the only person running elections right now that would share costs with you.
So we're hiring the county.
I think it's important for us to understand what that costs.
Yes.
I agree. Good tip. Yeah, I'm totally agreeing with you, that do not sign a contract, he's not gonna at least give us an idea what the cost is gonna be.
Let me.
Are they having a school board election or anything?
Yeah, but it's Lockhart ISD, but there's no overlap. Everyone inside the city that votes goes to San Marcos.
So we don't know if San Marcos is having. And they usually do their own.
Yeah, but because the residents here, we would still share the cost for our.
Yeah, because we pay school tax.
Because we pay school tax, so,
Right.
if
But I mean,
remember,
they didn't share with us last time.
They should.
cost.
They did their own separate election. I don't know if you remember, but we voted here and then we had to go into San Marcos to vote for the.
That is
school
true,
election.
you're right, you're right.
They didn't share with us.
Mm.
So we might want to put this off until the next meeting and try and find out
Yeah, we need to have a.
who else is.
There's a
having
chance that no one runs up, if everybody's unopposed.
Yeah.
No, we don't know the cost, they won't run on the cost.
Yeah, don't jinx it, really.
Okay, so do we have to have a motion to just
Table it
kind of?
or
we-
postpone it?
Possible action, no, it says possible action.
Yeah, possible. So we'll just wait and do that next time. Okay, so let's go on to 3.6 and Javi and Jared, take it away.
Yeah, so, city council, on your iPads and in your packets, you'll see a cleaned up, version of a short-term rental regulation ordinance. This is, there have been some changes I haven't kept up with what exactly they are. But nothing too substantive from the last time we looked at it. If city council wants to consider this a first reading and have a second reading later and not approve it tonight, it's fine. If you want to go ahead and approve it tonight, you like the way it looks.
I just got a couple of questions.
But it lays out mostly some safety regulations, registration requirements, and noise and other items to address possible nuisances.
And we're doing this in 2 ordinances as far as how to collect the fees, the taxes and stuff. We'll do it in a separate ordinance.
Yeah, the document looks good. I just got a couple
Yeah.
questions for clarification.
Yeah.
I guess, let's go to, section 2. It says E, which is the maximum number of occupants for the dwelling unit or sleeping room. And then I assume you go to 5 and it says, says 2 per bedroom. Is that what, there's, where did I see that?
Yeah, where's the calculation of the maximum capacity of the property? That was a
It's
little-
2 per bedroom.
It's 2 per bedroom. So if you have,
That's 2 per bedroom, so it's a 10 or 5 bedroom house, it's
Okay, well, I'm gonna tell you right now, the property next to the mayor has a
3 bedrooms.
converted garage that has bunk beds in it, and they list that property with 16 people in it.
And sometimes they
Sleep
put
there.
more.
You can actually sleep more. I've seen them.
They
put
have
20.
tents out in the yard.
So,
Would they be grandfathered?
no, because there was no ordinance.
No, so in that case, we could find, it's only way to reference, like. I can work you through, it, but what I intended to set up is you have a maximum 2 people per bedroom. And then if there's a desire to have more occupancy than that, you have to have a fire safety inspection, a successful fire and safety inspection. That would be conducted by Bureau Veritas or a,
Wouldn't they have to have that
you
anyway?
endorse it, you can display it there. So,
Wouldn't they have to have an annual fire inspection anyway?
we have some inspection. There's a separate section that deals with inspections, and we have issues dealing with fire safety, like egress routes and the right type of, fire extinguisher. I don't think we have a mandatory, annual inspection requirement, but it's subject to inspection and an annual registration renewal. So if there's a concern there, we could inspect at that time.
The way you have it written right now, is once they're approved,
What's the sections? What section?
Article 3, Section 301,
All right,
on the,
there you go.
valid until the property is either sold or leased, so you're not doing anything.
Good conflict.
That's what it says there. All registrations approved under chapter will be valid until the property is either sold or leased or transferred.
Did you have something to say about?
Yeah, what I remember talking about is that if, let's say property gets reported right on time, and it's like, okay, we're gonna have it on record that it's been reported that they're having a nuisance property or a nuisance issue or whatever. From there, it's gonna be like, very noted, this is happening. After that, sorry, chief, put you on the spotlight, but chief, if you know, be known. From there, we're gonna be able to do an inspection and make sure that everything is in compliance. Even from the first time that they registered, there is gonna be an inspection to make sure that this is there, that is there, from there. Then it gets reported again, then it's like, okay, we're gonna do an inspection. Make sure that everything that is required on our end is actually in there. And so that's how I perceived it to be, that's when the inspection is done. I don't know if Sheriff has any other.
All right, let's just, what you're saying is good. Let's start with the term of the registration. So Mike brought up the issue of, capacity. And so you guys have it somewhere where it says 2 per room, per bedroom. And then supposedly there's a mechanism for override that through inspection. I didn't read that, but I'll read it again.
I've got another point, but go ahead, continue.
But the one, Wimberley does it every 2 years. Their renewal is every 2 years, is that right? But I don't see in section 301 that you said the fruit of this chapter shall be valid until the property is either sold or leased. So the way that reads to me is that once they get the registration of $20, the registered until the property is sold or the lease is transferred. Do you know that people that are leasing the property do Airbnbs?
If that's allowed under the lease, yes. But it's up to the property owner to qualify that on the term.
When I put Airbnb, they don't allow.
It might not.
No,
It might not. But this isn't restricted to a single, platform.
very much. No, absolutely, I understand.
$20 seems too little.
Well, let's talk about the year. Am I misreading this, that the way this is read, that this is an indefinite period of time?
Yeah, I'm wondering if I was recalling a separate,
If you got something
in the
else.
drafting in my mind, but I'm looking through to see if there's a conflict internal to this that creates that. 502, I think is where the,
That's the occupancy.
occupancy.
bedroom one.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes.
I've worked, CTIL, ETJ. I've looked at the document. I have several items of maybe interest and stuff like that. But what would be beneficial to me is that we start at the beginning and not jump around. Because I'm trying to, flipping papers and everything like that. So, point by point. So that would be one thing that we can just move through, and then if that's a request for all of y'all, but if it's my turn to speak, I have started the game, my own list of stuff, so.
So do the,
So, if it's my turn, I'll take my turn and then start. But in general, I just like to.
You want me to finish up I got one more point, that's it. My question also is the parking.
Yeah.
It says 5.03 off-street parking, a minimum of one off-street parking space is required for each residence with 3 or less bedrooms within it. So I assume if you have a 2-bedroom, they're allowed, they can park,
It's a minimum requirement.
so
It has to have at least one space off street.
off street. So I guess my point is but I guess you kind of limit the amount of people by your bedroom, 2 per bedroom, keeps it from. So for example, I've been going through this on my property over there in the Falls, and in the Airbnb, it does say no guests, only guests that are paying can be at the dwelling. For example, what they don't want is a bunch of frat rats go in there and rent this house, and then their frat party comes over, there's 40, 50 people.
Yeah, so that would be,
Like during the day or something,
so that would be a violation on the limits of occupants.
even during the day. So I'm saying is,
So that's an area where there'd be some interpretation. My plain reading of this is that no more than 2 guests per bedroom shall be allowed when renting a property. So that's how it applies.
should we add some kind of verbiage that like, hey, only paying customers or registered customers?
I guess the term that we could use is a non-occupant guest. Non-occupant guests are considered in that part of the.
But almost all these Airbnbs, particularly the one next to you, there's a group of people and only one person's paying, and he's sub-inviting 2 or 3 other families together in some cases, defining who is a approved guest. None of those names are on the short-term rental.
No, what I'm saying is we could make the term occupants as being inclusive of the guests who are not staying the night. We're not using I can find the right words, but.
It's in the Airbnb contracts typically there, no.
Not every guest has to register. We're not going to enforce Airbnb contracts in the city. So for us, the easiest way to say, are you here? Yeah, you're an occupant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, it's a 2-bedroom house. 2 you aren't allowed. Now, let's be honest. We're not going to, my guess is the police department will not
Can we
go.
get Tommy in here?
My guess is the police department would not go around counting people through the windows.
Yes, but.
You know,
I know someone who would.
But it's more one of those things of a fallback. When you get a noise complaint, you go there and like you said, there's a 40 fraternity brothers hanging out, having a kegger in the back porch, That's when that sort of thing comes involved. But the issue of, we have a term here called limit on occupants allowed, no more than 2 guests per bedroom shall be allowed when renting a property as short-term rental unless otherwise approved. And what you deal with if you show up and people say, well, I'm not staying. Essentially. My thought is we just consider them occupant for the purposes of this.
You could, you can say that, hey, you're in here, you're an occupant, or you're leaving right now.
Yeah.
So forth.
someone, is concerned about the, and I'm speaking to you, they're concerned about the inspection part of it. They're bringing up, infringe on property rights. And then as in claiming is not legal, it's not something you can do to limit visitors, that is up to property owner. And also, as said here, you're already getting 10%, you want a higher permit fee to register, question mark.
Alright, so
Yeah.
on the issue of inspections, that's something that we should consult our attorney about, what the legality of it, I can't speak to it. But it's something that we've modeled after other cities,
Yeah.
that's all I can say. The 10%, I think that's referring to the taxes, and then limit occupants and owners' rights. The reason why, that's covered in the preamble, portions. City of Martindale has the authority under local government code, 211, to regulate, among other things, the use of building structures, and other purposes, and where it's necessary and proper for the city of Martindale to adopt regulations that provide for, the registration of short-term rentals and the administration of the zoning codes. And it's also intended to, promote, basically the well-being and peace of the city. So it's basically taking this as, we have the authority to regulate potential nuisances, and we have the authority to regulate land use and zoning. Given those two authorities, we're regulating short-term rentals.
Okay, back to the parking issue. So they have a frat party and there's 40 cars parked on the side of the road. I mean, are we?
So I think that would be, if there's a lot of people parked on the side of the road, I think that'd be evidence of potential occupancy violation.
Okay.
As a- I would refer to the police department, how they would handle that situation as it relates to the parking limits. So in order to have 40 cars parked on the road, you would have to have a 43-bedroom house. Is how that would be applied. So if you have a 4-bedroom house, you have 3-bedroom house or smaller, you need 1 parking space. 4-bedroom house, you need 2, 5 is 3, 6 is 4, and on and on. So, we shouldn't run into that situation, and it would be something that we put.
Yeah, we're trying to promote this to some extent, you know, trying to get people to pay. Like, we gotta write it so that it's, you know, pseudo customer friendly here as well, that'll go both ways, you know, you want it strong to a point, there is overkill. You know, anything, you know, I mean, right now, the properties on Northwest River Road that are Airbnbs, they are prohibited from parking on the street anyway, in the easement, I mean, you in the right of way. Those are already established, so the property next to you guys, where that, technically, they have to all park in the fence, inside the fence, they're not allowed to park on the grass. That's Northwest River Road rule. We go downtown, they're end up parking in the street.
Yeah, that's another.
Yeah, you know, right, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So they're either
Okay.
trespassing on their neighbor's property, which can be addressed easily, right? Or they're up here on, you know, they're up here on Main Street here, and that's pretty much all they have.
I mean, there's also something just to be said for the fact that it's just, the street parking is public parking unless it's otherwise noted. It's
That's right.
just public parking.
So
I
it's
hear a lot of people complain about people parking in front of their house, and I'm like, it's not your.
not your property.
Can I say something about whatever that person, or whatever the whole question was, I'm trying to think that whole question in the past. But, I mean, they're correct to some degree. It's the Fourth Amendment still applies. I just can't go up and walk into someone's house, whether it's a bed and breakfast or an Airbnb or whatnot. I just can't go walk into someone's house. I would have to have some reason to go there and then make contact with whoever's renting it. That's what I would ask for. Who's renting it? Who got the contract? Show me, let me talk to that person for whatever violation I'm there for, and then go through everything with them. If I go there and I see a bunch of, let's just say minors, and they all take off running inside the house, you know, we got a different issue, and still the Fourth Amendment applies. I just have to have a reason to go into the house. I'm not going to probably cause, I'm just saying we're going to someone's house and violate their rights. you know, and we're just gonna address it with, the person that rented or leased it. Or maybe if we get these contracts, we'll have the, owner of the house, and then we can contact them at all hours. You know, we have someone we can call, say, hey, your persons that are renting your Airbnb are doing whatever. You might wanna come and address this at this, if we've been out.
Go ahead, Gary.
No, it's just a public, Dutch saying again, the city cannot govern how many visitors are allowed in your home at any given time. They can govern your occupancy for safety reasons, but that will be very hard to enforce.
I agree with that because
You can
we're
get a fire
saying
marshal
two
to
per
come in.
bedroom.
There's easy, you can get a fire marshal to come in and say, hey, there's occupancy load on this particular residence. And this is what we have, or you have to have this kind of doors. There's a lot of things that the fire marshal can do.
But that's just about who's staying there. That's not how many people can visit your house. I can have a party
Oh,
and invite
absolutely.
30 people.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I thought we were just saying that we're trying to limit the amount of people that are visitors, that are non-occupants, that are coming to the house, and that we're only gonna stick to 2 per bedroom. I mean, if people wanna come and visit them during the day, if they're renting a place on the river, are we saying we're gonna enforce that to the law to every person that's there?
No,
other than
probably.
that?
Let's speak. Well, first of all, to the person online, this is a for-profit, and I can have as many people as a guest for Thanksgiving or whatever in my own private residence, okay, fine. But when you issue it up for Airbnb, that's a for-profit. Now it's a whole other thing. Fire codes, safety codes, regulatory, underage drinking, and so on and so on. So somebody that cries my property rights, well, except for when you jump into a for-profit, that's one.
It's a public accommodation.
Correct. And then if you're in a hotel, it's really a hotel, you're running a hotel. So where if 10% hotel tax, if that's a standard statewide thing, so be it. Okay, that's another. Now, I live near an Airbnb, and it advertises at 18 people, but there's only 4 bedrooms there. And we've had fraternity parties there, and the last one was just a week ago, in which I spoke with a resident, well, a tenant, that next morning, and he said, oh, we only had, 18 people stay. But that night, they might have had 40 people because they were pledging. It was a fraternity pledging. And I said, well, wait a minute. So you're having a party going on, so it should fall under party ordinance. Also, why are you even in Martindale if you're a San Marcos fraternity? Oh, well, they're cracking down on us and it's hard to find places. All right, so, okay.
On the Martindale.
Right, so it's just push like the, all the other stressors, happening. So I would recommend Martindale, see how they're treating fraternal organizations and frat parties and pledging, and obviously adopt that, and whether or not that needs to be embedded in your Airbnb. I do understand that if a person's converted it, I've got 4 bedroom, but I've converted the garage, but already in here is a mechanism for variance, so that was good. But there's other places, and if I could just kind of start going down my list, is that important? Okay. Right off the bat, I completely agree with this peaceful enjoyment of property. So good for y'all on that one. I've already explained about the fraternities and everything, but the little devil's advocate though, that same place has had church events and even large family gatherings like Thanksgiving. So it's like, well, you might have 40 people for Thanksgiving, but they're not staying the night. So I really wouldn't consider them a, part of the count. So that might go to that owner, that is online. So really the distinction of who's staying the night versus, who's on the property. So that leads me to the next thing that I would add language that talks about the definition, also including land or property, which is on, where that fell. That was in your page 2, your short-term rental.
That's what I was saying about all of the tents.
Yeah, to the tent, so some kind of language, so not only are they renting the building, but they're renting the land as well.
Yeah.
So you might need some sort of regulatory on how many tents or how many,
RVs.
RVs, you know, like you got 3 acres of land.
An RV.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so next, moving on, the way I read it now is that it's in perpetuity, like there's an evergreen. And, as far, because I see no terms of how long a person has this permit. So I would make sure that that's an annual or every 2 year or whatever's appropriate, but giving somebody a permit forever, even until they sell it, well, they could be 40 years. So, you know, there's no telling. So that needs to be fleshed out. Moving down to J, which is 2.0 J, $20. I mean, that might have been 20 years ago. The staffing to vet whether or not the building's appropriate, whether or not their fire code's appropriate, you're gonna spend more 10 hours, or, well, I don't know how many hours, but certainly more appropriate, $200, or even more. So you can't hardly print a piece of paper for $20 anymore. Okay, let's see. Talked about $20 is too low. All right, moving on to life safety. You went about saying the size of the extinguisher. You went about having a smoke, CO detector, but you're kind of silent about smoke detectors. And to give y'all, those that don't know me, I'm a retired firefighter. I retired 7 years ago, so I know codes have changed, fire safety codes changed. But anyway, when I was leaving, apartments had 1 smoke detector per bedroom and then 1 on every floor. So I would recommend that you flesh that language out as to the appropriate amount of smoke detectors for the properties. Let's see, moving on, something I really liked is to see the night sky part. That was spot on, so good job for that. And then last, I'll finish up with section 5.004. And I would, you talk about no amplification of noise between the hours up. I would add a little more definition for what noise is, possibly music, sound, because an individual might say, well, it's not noise, it's my music, not noise. So I can play as loud as I want. So there's some ambiguity there. So I would add some definition there. And that's it. I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Well, just tell you, your neighborhood has a real issue with Airbnbs. I mean, how many of y'all have in that neighborhood?
Well, I appreciate that. Right now, we have technically 3 out of 14. We're a half a mile of road. Right next, basically on each end are an Airbnb and then 1 in the middle. But the individual in the middle, he said he Airbnb it, but he's only done it maybe twice. And he more of a weekend. And so it's not really, it's not really a use for that. But there is potential for half of that street to become Airbnb. And, so
Well,
there's.
there's a potential for every house to be in here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. And, so we've looked into, can, homeowner association regulate, and homeowner associations are very weak in that regard. We can have some rules. We can't completely get rid of them, and possibly have some quiet hours and some rules and stuff like that. And personally, I'm hoping that y'all's ordinance is a good quality thing, because I think it'll help encourage my community to come in because of that regulatory side of the city. But we've had large parties. We've had a wedding at the end where they brought in basically a full-size bus. And how they got it down our road, no idea. It's like oh my gosh, and you turn around, it's like, because they took them to another facility, the whole wedding party and came back and, you know, it's just like, well, good luck if our bridge drops in, you know, because that's a whole nother issue that we've got a new bridge, but, so there've been times, and I know my neighbor, Keith Schmidt, he's had some very harsh dealings with the Airbnb right next to him, and I'm one house over. And I had asked him, invited him to come, that said, hey, you're talking about it, and tell your story. Anyway, he's not here, but, he's had the spillage, and I've had spillage where the Airbnb thinks they rent the land, and maybe they do, but then they start wandering the street. I've had them just wandering around my yard. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, the trespassing.
I had a problem on my property.
Yeah. Like, how does, and I don't even understand how you think you rent a house and all of a sudden it gives you right to trespass on other land. It just, it's almost like they, you know, I mean, so, but there's a lot of good
That's
things.
Aspen, right? Where people wander across our land.
Oh,
Yeah. A lot of good things in this, quiet hours, regulatory, fire inspections, I would say an annual fee. And then cover the inspector, the fire safety, having a map on how to get out. That's one of my big things is people don't have any idea of how to get out of a building because you wake up in the middle of the night, how to get out. Yeah. So good on y'all to be working through this. I appreciate it. Those additions would be nice and I'll turn it back.
So is that a typo on H where it says a list of all rental platforms where the Unity will be advertised?
There's a few
Probably.
typos.
It's
Yeah.
unit.
Probably.
Yeah, yeah, there's a couple of different typos I was
Yeah.
gonna submit to you later.
So, Jay, sorry.
I thought we talked about the noise thing, and I thought we talked about the city ordinance, about the decibels and all that, and that we.
That's in there.
It's in here under nuisance party in the bottom of the first page.
65
Right, so do we need, so when he was saying we need to say specifically what noise is? Are we-
Oh, it's a
No.
different sentence, it's a different place. in there.
Right,
Chief, do we need to define noise?
I think it's already defined in our other ordinances.
okay, so it does apply, other ordinances will cover that. That's what I was asking, like, is that something, I thought we already talked about, that was already covered.
Does the word sound better than noise? Does it apply, does it provide a wider?
Why don't you use the
Wipes.
same wording as we use in the other ordinance, then it's consistent.
On
Noise.
I thought in
Is
the
what's
city
consistent.
ordinance, it was 85 and not 65.
It was.
Eighty-five is the state law.
I think we put 65.
Yeah, there was
in the park.
discussion, 65 is in the parks.
Right, in the parks.
Yeah, 85 is in residential or in houses, but we had it different for the parks.
Correct. Yeah, well, I mean, if I'm going to someone's residence, I'm gonna use what state law says in disorderly conduct. 85 decibels. And
Yes,
Two things I would like to add that I think are pretty important in this ordinance is that the neighbor notification aspect of this is pretty important. If you are gonna apply to be an Airbnb, you have to notify your neighbors and your neighbors have to agree or at least know that it's gonna be an Airbnb. So from there, you already have that aspect of like, okay, my neighbor's gonna be renting Airbnbs or not my neighbor. Someone next to me is gonna be renting out Airbnbs. I'm gonna have that in the back of my head whenever something is going out of hand. Whenever you do have those 40+ people going to that one house, it's like, that's something that they're gonna keep in the back of their head.
Will they have to agree in writing,
I
or?
don't think you should have to agree.
I know, how do you measure?
This is notification.
It's just
Yeah,
notification.
notify.
No, it's just notification.
Notify,
Just know that you use the word agree.
Yeah, I know, yeah, my bad. Notification. It's a neighbor notification. Second is that whenever they do register, that they have to provide their own phone number and contact information and a emergency contact for that piece of property if they're not living at that place or if they're not near it.
That That is an excellent point, because I had a problem with mine.
So with that, it's like,
Because the problem you run into with Airbnb, that you call it, you don't call the landowner, you call the Airbnb, and if it's 1 o'clock in the morning, a lot of times they don't answer the phone. That's the big problem.
Mhm.
There's no contact at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, and
Or even if
They
they
covered a
list,
lot of stuff, guys, you did good.
even if they list someone, it doesn't
Few
guarantee
were
they're
bad.
answering the phone, but.
Right.
He helped me remember, I was gonna also talk about that distance. 200 feet might not be far enough, because there's large properties, 200 feet, you're not even off my property yet.
Right.
It may be 500 feet, or you might need to grow that number. I think Austin might have 500 feet for any kind of, reconstruction, redoing a house or whatever. So,
Yeah, y'all been dealing with this a lot longer than I have. I just started dealing with it over there in Falls. But again, what I came up with, what I've noticed, my tenant called me at 3 o'clock. I said, call me anytime. I went over there at 3 o'clock in the morning. They were screaming, drunk, outside, hollering, you could hear it, So at that point, and then I actually had a demand letter and I got an attorney involved.
Okay.
And when we went through our agreement, I said, no outdoor music, 10 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And that, they agreed to that, and that, I think that would help, that to me would help.
well, to add to the story, I believe about maybe 4 or 6 months, ago, the sheriff or officers were called out to that one unit. So you might be able to discuss more about what all happened there.
We just went out there for noise service. And,
Okay.
And it basically went turned it down.
Okay,
Yeah, we weren't able to get in touch with any of the owners though.
all right. Well,
But if they turned it down, some of this, I totally understand. I really do, and I'm in favor of passing an ordinance. But I just want to be very careful, because some of it, I'm like, how is it any different than just having a neighbor that has an out of control party or a whatever, except I guess frequency, but for some of these things like, it seems like disturbing the peace is gonna be up to the police and like, you know what I'm saying? Like all of
Part of
that.
it is if you have a neighbor, you can talk to them in the morning.
Yeah.
And say, hey, I know you're having a fun time and have people over, it's kind of loud.
That's what I do with my neighbor.
And then, but if it's somebody who's there for a very short period of time and it's somebody new and somebody
Yeah,
new,
you
you can't have that
But
neighborhood
they're probably
conversation.
not gonna be the same people every time, so.
Yeah, but your neighbor is going to be the same people.
To
every
add a
time.
little
So
story.
that's why it's a little more harsh on the short-term rental than you would something else, is try to maintain that
The
neighborhood.
next morning, Keith caught a little more hell from the tenants, short-term tenants. They were cussing, they were slamming doors, spinning tires on the way out. So there was a little more.
Cause they don't own it.
They don't own it, they don't care. And the owner whose property, who might be saying, oh, my owner, I have the right to. Well, you're making profit, but you're not catching all the hell. So that's where I think the city has the right, and I guess the state says so too.
It provides the city the ability to regulate nuisances and provide for the well-being. And so that's really what's intended to do, is keep a neighborly atmosphere.
I just want to make sure that the people that are earning the profit absorb the cost as well. And how you do that is through regulatory, through fees, through fines, and so on and so on.
Cause I'm gonna say, I feel your pain, cause I went through that.
Right.
Other property, it was a brick wall and basically said, well, if you wanna go to the next step, it's gonna be about $50,000 to $90,000. You wanna take it to court. I said, no, I'm not gonna do that. So
Sure.
I just had a demand letter and a Zoom call with the owners, and we had a verbal agreement.
And to balance the whole universe out, that they've been quiet, respectful tenants as well. There's been a whole list of these are maybe every other month, kind of, maybe every third month.
Mayor, if I may, if there's typos or other changes that council wants to make change, I think we just take them on email.
Yeah.
We send them to Javier,
Minor,
yeah, we'll make changes and bring it back.
And we just table it with modifications.
Yeah, mean, yeah, I know you found some, I found some typos, I don't know. So there's some minor ones.
I was also wondering back about that, just to go back to that same point again. So wouldn't it be, well, I get that like in Martindale Falls, it's not in the city limits. But in the city, which this would cover the city, wouldn't, even if you can't get a hold of the owner, if it's disturbing the peace, or if they're like yelling at at like 12 in the morning or whatever it is, aren't you just calling the police the same that you would if it was anyone else? Like, why isn't that enough?
Generally, part of the reason is, we're at that time of night, not all the time, but sometimes at least, we're relying on the sheriff's department to take that call.
Yeah.
And not our police department to take that call.
Mhm.
And sometimes they are not quite as responsive. And so the
But-
hope is that people, like you do with your neighbors, if you have a neighborly person you can contact and say, hey, I'm having an issue, can you take care of it so I don't have to get the law enforcement involved? That way we're not.
So wait, so you're saying then that the person who's getting the permit is required to give that information to their neighbors?
Yes.
Because we're not having the police on duty, or for when the police are not on duty?
Yes.
Because I know if you call, like, let's say, we were just saying a minute ago, a lot of times, like, they won't answer at 1 in the morning or 2 in the morning, right? So then if you call the sheriff's department and it's only a city ordinance that doesn't apply in the county sheriffs will say they can't deal with that because they only enforce county rules.
That's where they default to like the state rules on noise and other things, so, the reason for having the registration and emergency contact is so that private people can take care of their disputes themselves without needing to call the police every time there's a noise. And
So I
hopefully,
just have to tell the person next door to me on either side?
anybody whose property boundary was within 200 feet, so probably your neighbor on
That's
either
when you were saying
side.
500.
Maybe,
Okay, gotcha.
maybe 2 houses down on either side, and maybe across the street, catty corner, but probably those 6 homes, maybe somebody on their back, you share a back fence. So it kind of depends on your unique property situation. If you're, like, say, down in the downtown area, there's probably 6 homes, six of your
Yeah.
neighbors.
Yeah, okay, I got it.
So yeah, your 2.02B, they did wrote address of the short-term rental, the name of the contact of the local emergency contact, approval, occupancy level, so you know how many people that got approved, and the summary of the key conduct rules, including quiet hours and parking restrictions. So you as the neighbor of that area know, and if they're violating, you can contact that contact and say, hey, just let you know, this is a problem, are you gonna address it, and then we can deal with it from there.
Whenever we get the final version dealt with, obviously we don't have to, but it would be nice to have a fill in the blank form that the owner can just print out that already has, like, here's all of the blah, blah,
He's
blah.
already working on that.
Yeah,
There's
just that way
yeah.
everybody's not trying to go, oh, well, I thought I
There's
gave
2
them that.
pieces to this also. You still have a zoning issue on top of this registration.
Mhm.
So in certain areas, zones of the city, like mixed use district and others, short-term rentals are permitted. In residential zoning districts, oftentimes, I think in all cases, a short-term rental is required a specific use permit as part of a zoning application. Our thought is you probably do, this in a residential area, you would do both the zoning and the registration at the same time. Because it's the same notification requirements typically.
Gotcha.
The reason why we don't rely on just the zoning is because it doesn't apply all across the city. So if you have, because we have your commercial and mixed use district, you don't have the same
Right.
special use permit requirements.
Gotcha.
And in the end, hopefully this is going to achieve better tax compliance.
Mhm.
In addition to creating better.
Oh, but I thought
well-being.
that was a separate thing. I thought the tax
Well,
compliance was a
That's
different.
the end.
Part of having the registration is now you know.
Oh,
you
who
can
should
have-
be
who
across
should
it.
be
Yeah.
paying their taxes. It just helps.
Right.
But the automatic payment and other things are going to be.
Yeah.
separate.
Okay, gotcha.
And when you email the corrections, email them to Hobby.
please. If y'all have my email.
Yeah,
We
we
did
do.
auto-populate on the,
Yeah, okay,
on the thing.
We do. We all have.
So we'll table the next meeting,
Yeah.
we'll.
Hopefully knock it out.
We've made a lot of progress on it though.
Yeah, that's good document overall.
That's good. There's a lot going on. I know.
Thank you, by the way, I mean,
Javier did a lot of work on,
thank you for that.
he did a great job.
Thank you.
I think that's it, Mayor.
Okay, let's have a motion to adjourn at 9:49. Please, somebody, motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 9:49.
I'll second.
All in favor, please say aye.